All right, welcome everyone. We'll open up our meeting and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing for the invocation. Is Ms. Ducott here? Oh, well, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a prayer for meetings from the writings of the Baha'i Faith. O God, my God, cast upon this gathering the glances of thy loving kindness. Keep safe each and all in thy custody and under thy protection. Send down upon these souls thy heavenly blessings. Immerse them in the ocean of thy mercy and quicken them through the breaths of the Holy Spirit. O Lord, bestow thy gracious aid and confirmation upon this just government. This country lieth beneath the sheltering shadow of thy protection, and this people is in thy service. O Lord, confer upon them thy heavenly bounty, and render the outpourings of thy grace and favor copious and abundant. Suffer this esteemed nation to be held in honor, and enable it to be admitted into thy kingdom. Thou art the powerful, the omnipotent, the merciful, and thou art the generous, the beneficent, the Lord of grace abounding.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ducat's with the Baha'i Faith Community, thank you very much. Roll call, please, Bev.
Mayor Schlum.
Here.
Councilmember Cantino.
Here.
Councilmember Leger.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Hanson. Here. Councilmember Elke.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dickey.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. The mayor's report, first thing is we have a couple of proclamations, one of which is Public Safety Day and then Pony Express Day, which are both right around the corner. So take note of these dates and put them on your calendars as well. We recognize them further with the proclamation here. The first one with Public Safety Day, whereas the Town of Fountain Hills Rural Metro Fire Department and Maricopa County Sheriff's Office have dedicated themselves to the protection of life and property of citizens in the Town of Fountain Hills, often at great risk to their own safety and well-being, whereas the Fountain Hills Rural Metro Fire Department and Maricopa County Sheriff's Office have continually supported efforts to elevate their standards and training and have been instrumental in improving methods of fire and crime prevention. And whereas firefighting and police work are among the most hazardous professions and require extensive training, strength, endurance, courage, and selfless concern for the safety of citizens of Fountain Hills. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of valiant firefighters and police officers often go unreported and are inadequately recognized by the public. And whereas the work of firefighters and police officers deserve the attention and gratitude of all individuals in the Town of Fountain Hills, therefore, J.T. Schlum, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, hereby proclaim the 9th day, is that right? Yes, the 11th day, 11th day of February 2012 to be Public Safety Day in the Town of Fountain Hills, and on behalf of the Town Council hereby encourage all citizens of Fountain Hills to recognize and honor our firefighters and police officers for their efforts to keep our citizens safe. So take note of Public Safety Day on February 11th. The next item is for proclamation for Pony Express Days, which is coming right up as well on the 9th of February. And they arrive usually in the afternoon, around 3, if I remember right. But you're never really sure. But that's fun to take part of. We have a proclamation to recognize Pony Express Days here in Fountain Hills. The Pony Express played a particularly important and colorful part of history in the West, dating from 1860 to 1861. And whereas each year the Pony Express riders are remembered with a commemorative ride by the members of the Hash Knife Gang traveling from Holbrook to Scottsdale. And whereas Fountain Hills is the next to last stop on their trek, now therefore, February 9th, 2012 is hereby proclaimed to be Pony Express Day in Fountain Hills. All town residents, visitors, and residents of surrounding areas are invited to join in the festivities and dress Western to commemorate this part of our history in the West. And witness whereof I hereto set my hand and cause to be affixed a great seal of Town of Fountain Hills, Maricopa County, Arizona, the 2nd day of February. And again, Pony Express Days is February 9th. So coming right up. So come on out over by the, if you haven't been out before, they arrive at the post office and actually deliver the mail. But just in advance of that, they come charging up in a gallop up the avenue, right from Fountain Park, straight up the avenue of the fountains, and that's a lot of fun to see. You don't often see horses at full speed running up the avenue of the fountains, and these are good riders, so it's fun to take part of, and encourage everyone to bring their kids out too if it's after school. They'll also take note that before our next meeting, we have the Arizona Centennial to celebrate, and our great Centennial Circle is just being completed, and the Centennial celebration here will be 3 o'clock on the Centennial Circle on Sunday, February 12th. So everybody is welcome to enjoy that birthday bash for our state of Arizona's 100th year, the Centennial. Again, 3 p.m. at the Centennial Circle, and there are additional events happening throughout that day and also that evening here in town. So check the calendar for that. Thank you, and thanks to the entire committee for working on that effort to recognize our 100th year in the greatest state in the country. We have now a public presentation by one of our partners, this one, the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce Tourism Division, for fiscal year 11-12 disbursement of funds for tourism. They will give us a nice presentation to let us know what's happening in tourism world. Mark, how are you?
Very good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Mark McDermott. I serve as the director of the Fountain Hills Visitors Bureau, a division of the Chamber of Commerce and a partner of the town of Fountain Hills in the area of destination marketing. I think this is an exciting evening for the town, I think, in terms of us being able to tell you a little bit about what we do to promote what we have here in town right now, and at the same time, you will deliberate in a little bit on the addition of an exciting new opportunity to add a major attraction to our destination as well. So I think it's terrific, and I'm happy to be here. My associate, Francesca Garoza, please come up here, Francesca, so you can help me. She answers all the questions that I don't know the answers to. All right. This is essentially our mid-year report on what we do with the funds we receive from the town, which substantially funds the Bureau. The Chamber also funds the Bureau. The Fort McDowell-Yavapai Nation also funds the Bureau, as does the state of Arizona to a little bit of a lesser extent, but we take every bit of help we can get. The Visitors Bureau is a division of the Chamber, but it's also a partnership with the town of Fountain Hills and, as I said, also with the Fort McDowell-Yavapai Nation and the state. We provide tourism marketing services for the town of Fountain Hills and our surrounding area, which basically includes Fort McDowell-Yavapai Nation and the Verdes communities, in particular in the Verdes for our golf product marketing. Advisory Council oversight. We have an advisory council that consists of some 50 people. Usually our meetings are 20 to 25 people, and they are stakeholders, businesses, organizations throughout the community who work with us in helping to direct the programs of the Bureau. Our mission is to stimulate business vitality and enhance the quality of life within our community. That's the Chamber's overall mission, and that obviously is inherently the mission of the Visitors Bureau as well. And our goal is to attract both high-value overnight visitors as well as day trip visitors, visitors in general, to enhance the local economy in order to help ensure a sustainable business and employment environment and generate vitality to attract new businesses and even business development and even attract new residents. It's all about enhancement of our community. Our programs, keeping it kind of brief in terms of strategies and programs, are to attract visitors, and we target our promotional and marketing efforts into certain niche markets: events, arts and entertainment, desert experience, outdoor adventure, golf, the Southwest and Native American culture, and a particular niche of weddings, for which Fountain Hills has been found to be quite an attractive destination. One of the major initiatives we've undertaken this year as a result of dialogue and interaction and partnership with the town through both our overall business vitality efforts as well as our tourism efforts is to try to come up with a sort of a new brand for the community that we can use, not just for tourism promotion, but also for potentially economic development, for civic engagement, for all kinds of just positioning this destination out in various marketplaces and through various channels. So we engage the services of a very qualified brand development firm called Brand Gravity, And we refreshed the brand positioning and the graphic representation of Fountain Hills area destination through a process. I can click on this guy here, bring up this particular, oh, got away from me. There we go. This is what basically a real brief overview of what we did to work through the brand initiative. We hired this firm, they immersed themselves in the community, they worked with us, they worked with other stakeholders in the community, and came up with basically an array of, first of all, storyboards about the destination, ranging from how we are as an outdoor adventure, an outdoor scenic destination, how we are in the second panel you see there as a events and activity destination, how we are as a golf destination and other related outdoor activities, how we are as a food and dining and activity along those lines type of destination. And they even came up with some suggested events for us. And then from that exercise, they came out with basically a look and feel, an image projection for the community, a sense of place for the community, and then projected that into potential advertisements where you see things such as this, which basically says we're looking for, this one might be sort of an economic development kind of thing, says we're looking for entrepreneurs who want to share our vision and clean, creative community and so forth, and various other ads they created that had to do with different particular niches that are germane to our destination. Outside activity is the one you see on the left, and the one you see on the right has to do with love of art. The one you see on the left here has to do with civic engagement and schools. And the one you see on the right there has to do with using Fountain Hills as a base camp for your travel, so forth and so on. You see these montage of photographs in each of the ads, and the reason for that is rather than trying to use one single if you will, hero shot for the destination. We basically thought, there's so many different aspects of this destination that we have to try to convey in our advertising that we need to go to the whole montage type of approach to our advertising and our marketing, and these are the kinds of things that they recommended. You can see the colors, the palette, the feel, the sense of place that exudes throughout this whole positioning. And these are some of the ads that we've actually placed since the brand has been evolved. This one on the left is one that was done in a magazine section of the Arizona Republic. The one on the right was one that was done in the Scottsdale Republic. This is a valley guide. It's a destination guide or a tourism guide that is distributed throughout the valley. This is a Key Arizona magazine guide on the right-hand side. Business cards, banners for trade shows, banners for website advertising, and there's our trade show banners. And that's basically how we developed the brand, an exercise in and of itself. And out of that came other activities. Oops, where's our little X out here? Try to get out of that guy there. There we go. Moving forward. Two key elements in this partnership for developing a new brand had to do with, one, the brand development in and of itself. As you saw, the logo basically takes a whole different approach to using the fountain from the traditional artistic graphic representation of the fountain, such as it is, to more so the representation of the fountain in kind of a celebratory fashion to represent all of the different things there are to see and do here in Fountain Hills. And each of the colors kind of has a reason behind it. You see the green represents the rolling hills or the golf courses. You see the blue coming up through the middle represents the fountain and blue skies and other blue elements of our destination. The purple represents the purple mountains and the majesty of the mountains. The gold and whatever represents the sunrise, the sunset, the sunshine that we enjoy. And it's meant to give a celebratory feeling to the whole destination of Fountain Hills. We get into more pictures. You see the color continue to exude throughout the website. This is the website under production right now. Various photographs you can click on to read more about these various elements. This one here doesn't mean we have a beach in Fountain Hills, but it's basically a man looking at photographs or photography or artwork at one of our fairs. And if you click on that, you read more about the fairs and so forth and so on. It's a website, that's currently in development. We expect to launch it by the end of this month, but it will be a website that will be a destination website for Fountain Hills in general, not just a tourism website, but also a website that will be used, that can and will be used for such things as business development, economic development, civic engagement, and all of that sort of thing. Kind of an overall comprehensive portal website for all of Fountain Hills as a collaborative effort of the town of Fountain Hills and the Chamber of Commerce, which will be visible on every single page of the website at the very bottom, such as this. Okay? Moving along, because I know my time is limited. During the first half of the year, we did various advertising things, but two really stand out as kind of particularly impressive that we thought we'd like to report to you on. We did a Phoenix Magazine section about Fountain Hills in the November issue of Phoenix Magazine, which was their best of issue every year. And we were able to collaborate with businesses in town to come up with an advertising buy that afforded us 7 full pages about Fountain Hills in this edition of the Phoenix Magazine. It was very well received by those who participated in it, as well as those who saw it. And we've already been encouraged very strongly by those that did participate in it to do it again next year. 177,000 paid circulation to I'm sorry, 77,000 paid circulation to Phoenix Magazine, nearly 200,000 overall monthly readership, and it's one of the most premier magazines in the Valley. This has garnered us, and those that have advertised in it also have already reported back to us that they've seen significant good feedback from having participated in that. So that was a major advertising undertaking that we had during the course of the year. At the same time, we did a golf magazine thing to work within our golf niche. Took a section within a golf magazine. Every November they do a special section on Arizona in particular. And we took that section and were able to get the cover page of the Arizona section about our golf product here, which we have branded kind of separately as the Sonoran Desert Golf Trail. So this cover, Golf in Arizona, is a picture, as you can see, of Eagle Mountain Golf Club, a feature club within our Sonoran Desert Golf Trail that includes all of our clubs, all of our courses here in Fountain Hills, as well as over at Wecopa, over at Fort McDowell, and Vista Verde up in the Verdes. And we got a page of editorial, photograph, and an advertisement here within that. There are also various other components, including a massive several 80,000 person email blast that was a component of this buy, and one subsequent follow-up ad to promote a package that we will be taking this spring. So that was a key element of our advertising program. We also do a monthly exposure for Fountain Hills in Arizona Key Magazine. This is a magazine that's ultimately distributed through hotels, information centers, and other information outlets throughout the state, and also through all the concierges that work within the hotels. They also have an online presence, and we have a page within their website all about Fountain Hills that I can show you real briefly here. Though I know I'm starting to run short on my time, but within their website, we have this presence here, and we are able to maintain updated Fountain Hills information on this website at all times. Things to do, calendar of events, arts and culture, attractions, casinos and gaming and dining and golf and shopping. All of that stuff is updated and maintained on a constant basis primarily by Francesca here, who keeps looking at me like she wants to say a thing or two, but I know I'm afraid we don't have a whole lot of time to get that done. Anyway, so moving right along, all of this, of course, is articulated in writing in the written report that we submitted to you. It's kind of hard to put 6 months' worth of work into one quick 15-minute show, but how am I doing on time? Do I have a couple of minutes left?
You got 1 minute left.
1 minute
Just
left.
kidding.
All right.
Mark,
I don't want to run over because I know how much you have on
don't go
the
faster
agenda
than
for
you
tonight.
have. You don't have to go any.
All right. Our other advertising, Valley Guide, is an area-wide tourism oriented publication we've worked with for for a few years now. They afford us all kinds of extra value for advertising in their publication. Again, website presence. They also have this Phoenix map here is a sister publication of the Valley Guide, where we have a special insert all about and for Fountain Hills within that area-wide transportation Phoenix map. AZ Magazine is a special section within the Arizona Republic now that they're doing about things to see and do, mostly events in and around Arizona. We took that during the course of our event season, and the Scottsdale Republic ad was also an ad that we took during the course of our event season. We produce various publications per the scope of services and per the need to do it, just because that's what we do as a tourism destination. We have a visitor's guide that we produce every year in 40,000. There are copies on the back table back there for any of you who are here to take as many as you want, or if you want more, let us know, we'll give you more. This is all about the area destination, Fort McDowell, Fountain Hills, Fort McDowell, and the Verdes. We also produce a restaurant guide. Kind of tough to keep the restaurant guide up to date because new restaurants are always coming in, and unfortunately sometimes they're going out, but we keep it up to date on a very regular basis. Produce it. It's available as a downloadable PDF on our website, and we also produce copies of it in print format. There are some copies of that also in the back for anybody who would like to take a few of those, and you all have them in the packet, a report packet that we gave to you as well. We also produce an ongoing bi-monthly, calendar events that covers all the events coming up for the next 2 months. It's updated obviously every month. Again, posted as a downloadable PDF on our website, as well as printable versions available. If anybody wants copies of those, just contact us and we produce them for them. And because of the special attraction of Fountain Hills to weddings, we've now begun producing a bridal guide that lists all the services and elements and attractions available to any brides interested in having their wedding here, or potential husbands, grooms interested in having their wedding here as well. That's also available as a downloadable PDF format, and we produce it in copies when we go to weddings-oriented trade shows and things like that. Golf is an important niche market to us. It's probably our best niche market for high-value overnight visitors. We do have quite a few golf travelers who come here on an annual basis. I wish we knew the economic impact of the golf market here in Fountain Hills. Maybe someday we can afford to do a study on that. But we decided that we needed to do a special marketing effort just for golf. So we created this branded thing that we called the Sonoran Desert Golf Trail. You may have heard of the Robert Jones Golf Trail in Alabama, and other golf trails are starting to crop up around the country. So we created this thing that we call the Sonoran Desert Golf Trail. And as you can see from the pictures as they scroll through here, we've probably got one of the most scenic, beautiful golf trails in all of America. And we have a great opportunity to promote a fantastic product here. I'm happy to be able to report that our golf courses are thrilled about this. They participate with us. They contribute to the efforts. They co-op with us in funding advertising efforts and so forth, like the golf magazine thing that you saw that I brought up earlier. You can do all kinds of things on here. One of the neat things you can do is book a golf vacation. If you clicked on that particular item in the website, it would bring you to this page that shows you two options for booking a package for golf in Arizona. This one is operated by our own AZ Trails travel services in town here, Roxanne and Hank Wariski, who many of you know them. They offer packages through their services here, and if you clicked on this, it would go directly to their site, and that would show you feature packages for golf that they offer. If you click on this one, Golf Zoo, this is a national golf package firm. This is a company that I know the town's a little familiar with them from some dealings in the past, but they're a great service. They own homes, 3 homes in Fountain Hills, and they book them out year-round, and now we have our own Fountain Hills Sonoran Desert Golf Trail page on their website as well. So they're selling it out there for us nationwide. They're a nationwide service, and we're booking golf packages through them as well. So that's kind of a neat option that we have going too. As you may get the picture, the way marketing for tourism for this destination is going, it's very, very, very actively online. It's the most cost-effective way for us to go, offers us a huge array of options, and gives us some great opportunities for for doing things at leveraged and very low cost. Our niche markets, the weddings market, we've been on the cover of Arizona's Finest Weddings magazine. We continue to work here very closely with the town, with Brian Hughes and Reno Getty, going out to weddings shows, and our participation in Arizona's Finest Wedding delivers probably the best array of leads in terms of little group things that we're receiving at all right now. And we're able to, Brian Hughes would tell you or told us at our Tourism Council meeting just yesterday that we're on pace to probably exceed our best year ever for hosting weddings in Fountain Park and at our community center. And they feel that a lot of it has to do with this enhanced marketing that we've been doing in the weddings market as well. More online stuff. Those of you that know anything about TripAdvisor, it's one of the most widely used websites for where you want to go in the world anymore. It's a fast growing towards #1 website to go to for finding out information about places you might consider traveling to. We have our own Fountain Hills sponsored page that affords us banner advertisements such as this about our golf trail, another one over here. It's both a user-activated page as well as a page that we're able to fill in information with about ourselves. But there on TripAdvisor, we do have a very active presence as another one of our online integrated marketing activities. And here's a page that basically gives you a feel for all of the websites that we have a presence on. Visitors Bureau Facebook page, we're on Twitter, we're on Arizona Key, we're on, well, you can read the list, I don't have to read it to all of you, but you can see that, and to me, this is only the beginning, and this is the way of the future in terms of marketing destinations all over the board, websites, interactive, all leading back ultimately to our website, and the website I showed you earlier that we're creating will go live by the end of this month, and that'll be our benchmark for really being able to start measuring the activity and the feedback and the response on the return on investment, if you will, to what we're doing with what we're spending in all of our tourism marketing activities. Just one minor thing on the meetings and convention side, we don't really don't have an active outreach into meetings and conventions. I wish we could, but we don't have the resources for it. But oftentimes our hotels, in many cases it's the Radisson over at Fort McDowell, that come to us and say, hey, we have an opportunity to book this thing, will you help us with the bid presentation, will you co-sponsor with us, and so forth and so on. And we've done that with some success over the years, in the last couple of years, with booking the National Native American Tourism Conference last year, and the latest one we were able to get, so to speak, was the International Trail Symposium coming up in April of next year, 2013. This is a symposium about outdoor enthusiasts, trails activists. It's a kind of thing that's going to garner us so much exposure over the course of the next 14 months while we're ramping up to hosting it, because the American Trails Association is hugely responded to and active in by trails and outdoor activity enthusiasts from all over the world. Actually, they get over 1 million hits to their website every month, they tell us, so it's huge. And now we have a special focus page on that website about the conference going to be here in April 2013. It's an international conference, going to bring 800 attendees. It will fill every hotel in all of Fountain Hills, Fort McDowell, down into Scottsdale, down into Mesa as well. And while they're here, they will do things that will help us. They'll identify a legacy project. They'll build a new trail. They'll build a new trail leading up to the conference. Finish that trail while they're here. Have a celebration about that. And also, we have a huge opportunity to promote this destination during the course of the next 14 months, ramping up to this like no other that we could hope for within our limited resources and budget that we have to work with here. You give us a contract, we have a scope of work deliverables. Real quickly, these are the bullet points on it. You ask us to provide necessary staffing, we do. That's Francesca and myself. We publish a visitor's guide, we do. Our media relations program, we're looking for a $200,000 value, which is basically 5 times what we spend on media relations activity. We're already at $125,000 in media generated. You have a spreadsheet within your packet that shows you what all of all of those items were. Grant funding from Prop 302 from the state, Prop 202 from the Native American gaming proposition. We do get funds from them. We have applied for as much as we could get from them, and that's what we're getting. We're developing the new image and branding campaign and the new website. Print and online advertising just because of the Phoenix Magazine thing, and of course, probably more so than anything else, the Golf Magazine thing, which we got a great value at, and the golf courses helped us make that happen. We're already over the 5 million impressions that was our target for this year. So if you want to double us up on that, we can exceed exceed that as well, I'm sure. Produce niche market brochures, a dining guide, calendar events, wedding planning guide, and all the other things that we do. We are in compliance halfway through the year and exceeding our expectations in some areas. That, Mr. Mayor and council members, concludes my exhaustive report. If you have any questions or if I have any time left, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Very good, Mark. Very, very good.
All right.
Francesca, anything to add?
No, I think that was a great.
Okay, all right.
Right on track, I was timing them.
You're
It
both.
was timing. Was it right on track? How'd I do? 15 minutes on the minute?
All
On the
right,
minute?
council, any
Okay.
questions for Mark, Francesca, or Frank?
Mayor,
Councilmember Leger?
is this when the oxygen mask drops down for our speaker? Mark, I just wanted to say, you guys have made some great progress since we engaged in this contract, and looking forward to the fruits of your labor in terms of boots on the ground in Fountain Hills, tourists.
Feet's on the streets, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Nice job.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Councilmember Brown.
I have to compliment you on your new branding logo. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's well thought out. I tip my hat to it. Of course, I will once again say that I was the one that was questioning the progress that we've been seeing in the past. You're totally blowing me away. It is so refreshing to see this much progress, even on a short budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Cantino.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate you also for all your work that you've done, and your efforts have paid off, and I thank you for everything you've done up there tonight, even though it was long and exhausting. It just shows your efforts are worth it, and it's going to be a better road as we keep going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember
Vice Mayor?
Cantino.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both so much, and everybody that's worked so hard. I have a question about the visitor's guide. How often does that come out?
Once a year.
Once a year?
40,000 copies.
How do you get people to know so that they know that you're putting that together, so the businesses have the opportunity to be a part of that?
Well, we do put out e-blasts through the chamber, and we have a sales force that comes in and goes out and calls on the businesses and so forth. So, yeah, we do what we can with those kinds of communications. Maybe there's a little bit more we could do, but, and then it's distributed through a company called Certified Folders. Why they're called that, I'm not sure, but throughout the state to over 400 different locations throughout the state, information centers and so forth and so on. So we get rid of every one of the 40,000 easily within the course of the year, and yeah, we would love to see more support within it. That would be great if we could.
And they are at the airport now.
And they're at the airport now. That's always a challenge.
So if somebody wants to be in there that's not in there, they probably get a hold of you guys for the next.
For next year, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Elke.
Francesca, Mark, well done. Very pleased. Had opportunity to see this logo as in the works as you were coming together with some different ideas, and
Right.
you guys have done a great job with that, and I'm very pleased. And keep it up. And I'm very pleased about the relationship between the town and the chamber as well. It's improved immensely over these past 12 months, and you get my 100% support with this type of work. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you very much.
Councilmember Hanson.
For the sake of time, ditto.
All right.
All right, Mark and Francesca, Frank, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed halfway through the fiscal year with what you've done. And it has been a lot over the first 6 months. And I pointed out last time you mentioned, you were here, that I appreciate the engagement in both directions with the hotels and resorts. I think that's very important, and hopefully you can get some feedback from them. Although because of some tax laws, you can't disclose much as far as dollars and cents there, but hopefully you're engaged with them and you're seeing they're happy with the progress that you're making and getting more folks into the hotels and resorts in our community.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we are, and I do note that in the reopening ceremony at Copperwind Resort, you won the Golf Shot Award for the closest to the Tee Golf Shot Award, so it's good to know that you're engaging with the hotels, too.
There's a video online of Mark with I think it may have been a hole-in-one. Yeah, that's so important. Obviously, the Copperwind's a great,
Right.
beautiful place up there here in the hills and Fountain Hills. And so please keep that engagement. I hope you get good feedback from them as things ramp up for those hotels and resorts in our town.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, council members. We greatly appreciate your support. We couldn't obviously do this without you, and so the partnership aspect of this is critical, and thank you very much for having us here tonight.
Thank you both. All right, excellent. I wanted to mention, yes, there you go. I think that was for my hole-in-one. Is that what that was for? We couldn't see where the balls landed, so we just assumed they went in the hole. Exactly. I forgot to mention that we had some recent birthdays. Vice Mayor Dickey, her birthday just recently, and also I missed Councilmember Hanson's birthday as well. So happy birthday to you too. And
sing for us, Jim?
no. And I wanted to also mention that there's some folks have emailed me, good luck with State of the Town tonight. And it is our next meeting. So the State of the Town will be given at our next meeting, the 16th at 6:30, and we'll have a small reception at 6 o'clock if anybody is interested in coming out. And also it's peak season for the winter sports at Fountain Hills High School, the Falcons, so get out and support your teams as they enter into the state tournaments and regional stuff. So go out and support our Falcons, and they're doing some great work over there at the school in science and other areas of education. So support your local school district, and their sports events are fun to go to. I think I've got my items mentioned. Now we'll go to call to the public and see if we've got any speaker cards. So these are folks that are speaking at items that are not on the agenda tonight.
Mayor, one card, Charles Herman.
All right. Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, welcome. You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very generous, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, other officials of the town of Fountain Hills. I'm a little bit in awe coming up here first in this meeting and being kind of the new guy on the block and following a presentation here that we've just heard of all that's going on and all that's wonderful in Fountain Hills. I'm a little bit in awe, I guess, because I just want to mention a problem. I'm here to mention what I think in Fountain Hills is a problem. Now, I'm here because I want to be here. I sold my house last summer, and I came to Fountain Hills for the winter, and I used the park a lot. And you know, what I'm saying here is really a footnote to this presentation, to all the other important stuff you've got going on here tonight. This is just a footnote. But we got a problem here in Fountain Hills, and I think we're kicking it down the road, and I think we really need to take action because it isn't going to solve itself. And coming here to Fountain Hills for the winter, I notice now that I'm using the park a lot that it's much more serious, and people are getting the idea where I'm going right now. You know, we got a couple of birds over in that park. We got a couple of birds. They're forming nations. They're going to start holding elections. I've never seen so many birds in my life, and it's costing this town a lot of money. They clean the park district does a great job. They clean the walk so you can use it. The other day I walked under a flight and some lady said, "You look like you're out of the movie, The Birds." They clean the park. All of the ground is covered with bird fecal material with the little kids play in. And some nice ladies insist on feeding the birds, and then the council says, well, you shouldn't do that. And you shouldn't, because everybody knows, all wildlife people tell you shouldn't feed the birds. It's not good for them. It actually hurts them. And then what they do is they create a mess all over the park, and the kids play in it. So that's not good. It costs the town money. The kids play in this. The lake is so polluted, it's called, you know, all the signs there say this is, I know you all agree, you all been there. It says this is reclaimed water. It's not reclaimed water. It's seriously polluted water, which we then spray every hour on the hour all over the whole park and the surrounding areas. So it's a serious problem. Now, it's not a problem that can't be solved. It can be solved very simply. We have to do something to reduce the bird population. And I'm not here to say anything that anybody doesn't know. Everybody knows this. So I'm just here because I hope that by being the nutty guy that gets up and makes a point and says this, people will say, you know, maybe we do have to do something. We've thought about it in the past. We've tried it in the past. We never get far. We really should do something. It's costing us money, and you know, the birds aren't going to solve it themselves. We're going to take some of them far away. We're going to take them away after much discussion and effort, I understand, and the next day they're all going to fly back. They like it here. Fountain Hill's a nice place. You just heard. It's a great place. So I just want to make this point, and that I hope that you, all of you, will step up and I know, but just it's not that tough. Make the point. Let's solve the problem. I notice it's much, much worse than it has ever been, and I've been here through Fountain Hills for 8 years, and I like the place, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
please
Herman.
do something. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me
You bet.
this highlight so early in the meeting. Thank
Take
you.
care. All right. All right, just so we all understand, decorum at the meeting is no clapping and no cheering and no booing. So we'll just get that cleared up now, because there may be opportunity for you to consider doing that in the future. And just so we can keep the meeting going, we'll all refrain from that. All right, move on now to the consent agenda. And we've got a couple items here on the consent agenda. Consideration of approving the town council meeting minutes on January 19th. Consideration of approving the liquor license application submitted by Mohinder Mahanis, owner agent for Adobe Wine and Liquors, located on El Pueblo Boulevard, for a Series 9 liquor store license. Consideration of approving a special event liquor license application by Robert Schmidt, representing American Legion Post 58, for the purpose of a fundraiser on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 24th, 25th, 26th, 2012. Consideration approving special use liquor license application for Robert Schmidt over that same, over a different period, this is February 18th, 9 till noon. And consideration of approving special event liquor license for the American Legion on March 17th from 9 to noon. And special event liquor license for also for American Legion for Saturday, March 24th from 9 to noon. And a special event liquor license application for Gisela Navone, American Legion Auxiliary Fountain Hills, Unit 58, for a fundraiser to be held Friday, Saturday, the 24th of February and 25th from 9 to 6, and Sunday from the 26th from 10 till 6. And then the last item on the consent is consideration of accepting an area agency on the aging contract for services from July 1 to June 30th, 2012. Could I get a motion
So moved.
and a second? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dickey?
Aye.
Mayor Schlem?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Councilmember Cantino?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
Thanks a bunch. All right, on to the regular item for the agenda. Item 9, consideration of possible transfer of budget authority in the amount of $6,900 from Capital Projects Fund to Public Art Fund for appropriation of public art fiscal year 2011 and 12. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The town of Fountain Hills has a separate fund, a public art fund, that was established with the adoption of the Resolution 2008-39, where we adopted the Public Art Master Plan for the purpose of funding art pieces. The budget for 11-12 was adopted with an appropriation amount of 0 in that fund because the revenue that pays for the art comes from commercial building permits. And obviously, we didn't anticipate that there would be any commercial activity going on. However, we did have 6 commercial projects that contributed $7,970 to the Public Art Fund this year, and the Fountain Hills Cultural Civic Association has requested to use those funds to purchase additional art. Without an authorized budget, because we budgeted 0, the FHCCA is unable to spend the money that has been deposited into the fund. So this would be in addition to the budget transfer that the council approved at the last meeting of about $3,100, bringing the total from 0 to $10,000. The budget transfer would come from the capital projects contingency line item fund and moved into the public art fund. And again, this is just an appropriation, a budget. It is not actually transferring the dollars. The dollars are already in the public art fund. The balance in that public art fund is currently about $7,500. And again, although we budget $10,000, they can't spend $10,000 if there isn't $10,000 in there. So they can only spend what's in there. So without the budget authorization, the FHCCA would have to wait until next fiscal year to budget for it, to spend the funds in that account for additional art.
Good, thanks, Julie. So just clearly it's monies that are authorized for spending in public art. They just haven't been allocated to it, and that's what you're doing. Or they've come in for public art, they just haven't been budgeted, so you're changing the budget so that it can be spent. The
Yes,
dollars
Mayor,
that
that's
came in for
correct.
art. Okay, good, thanks, Julie. Anyone from the public on this item?
No, Mayor.
Good, council, any questions? Could we get a motion on this item? And a second?
Second?
Good, is that all right? Do we need to specify our motion, Andrew?
Motion to approve would be better.
All right. All right, and a second. Any other questions? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Thanks. Next item, item 10, consideration expenditure to Precision Electric Company in the amount of $43,805.17 for the repair and replacement of the third and final pump and motor for the fountain at Fountain Park. Mark, how are you?
Fine, sir. Thank you. Mayor Slum and members of the council. You may recall that a little over a year ago, we had a failure of the pump assembly at Fountain Park, which necessitated us pulling one of the pumps and taking a look at it. We discovered that there had been, over the, not surprisingly, the 30 years that those pumps had been operating, a significant amount of wear both to the motor itself, but more importantly to the pump house housing. So last year we went in, had that reconditioned and the pump redone, and we're able to reinstall that. But also you may recall that this year we budgeted for work to replace and recondition the remaining two pumps. We did the second one this past fall. This is the third and final one. I promise you I will not be back with another budget request for another pump. This basically will include, as the last one did, instead of reconditioning the bowl, it is in poor enough shape that we need to replace that bowl. That's why this cost us a little bit higher than the first one we did, but it's in line with the second one that we did, where we're also replacing the bulb pump assembly. And it's also redoing the complete wiring on the motor. We basically then should have another 30 years of operation of this. And to our knowledge, there hasn't been any additional work that we're aware of on either the pump bowl or the motor itself in the year since the system was installed. So I think we've certainly got a long history on those motors. There's no reason why with the new system it shouldn't last a comparable amount in the future. So with that, I would gladly answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Mark. Were these improvements make them any more efficient, or is it simply replacing them as they were?
They're actually fairly efficient motors now. We looked at that a couple of years ago, Mayor Slum, and we looked at was there a significant cost savings with looking at new motors, but these were fairly efficient motors, and there really wasn't a very good payback on the period of time. So what they're basically doing is rewiring them, but there will be some savings in the sense that you got a whole new system. So everything will now be operating much more efficiently. So we will see some savings there.
Good, and perhaps not exactly here, but related to the fountain, the lighting, has it been as bright as it seems a little more dim than it's been in the past?
It is certainly more dim. We've had a failure of some of the lights on there's actually two sets of lights. One is actually at the base of the fountain, and the other are the bank lights. We were in the process of replacing the lights on the fountain itself when we had electrical damage with water in the bank lights. And those, my understanding, the bank lights were actually fixed today.
Okay.
And we still have a few more of those lights on the fountain itself to fix. So if you go out there today, it should be significantly better than yesterday.
Good. I just know we've been very fortunate with these motors, and to have them last this long and to have put, as you said, nothing into them prior to us doing the replacement of many of the components. So we've been real fortunate. Thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public on this item?
No, Mayor.
Any questions from council? Councilor Maralki.
Just a few questions, Mark. What kind of warranty do we have on those pumps, if any?
It is a 10-year warranty on the workmanship and the materials themselves.
Okay. And I also understand that there's a couple different programs that operate in conjunction with the pumps. One is to, if the wind is blowing too hard, that it won't come on.
Correct.
And then there's another one as far as a soft start, as far as, do you know what I'm referring to, Mark, as far as once the pumps turn on, there's not a huge surge of power or energy?
It's called soft start technology.
Okay.
Basically, our pumps don't fully load because we turn on one pump for the fountain, then we turn the other one on. So it's not like the motors have to ramp up, they're simply on or off. So some motors will actually come on and reach their full potential over a period of time. Ours don't do that. They simply start up and run on one pump, and then the second pump starts up and runs.
And that same technology will be used on these new
Correct.
pumps? Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks for staying on top of that, Mark. Obviously, we take great pride in the fountain, and we've kept it operating, so good job. All right, Councilmember Dickey, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Did we ever do that thing that was going to stop it from starting, and then if it figured out it was too windy, then it would stop? Did we ever do the gauge so that it doesn't go up?
Yes, that system's been in place a little over a year now, where in the past, the fountain used to come on, and then it would shut itself back down again. Now the fountain doesn't come on at all, which, interesting enough, I was here last Sunday, and I panicked at first because the fountain wasn't coming on, and then it dawned on me, and that's because it was too windy. So the system is, in fact, in place and is working.
Thanks.
Good. All right, excellent. Could we get a motion to approve the public services, the professional services agreement with Precision Electric Company?
So moved.
Second?
All right, any other questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Thanks a bunch. Thank you very much, Mark. Item number 11, we're going to open up a public hearing, and we call on Bob, who's probably going to talk to a couple of the items here. Public comments will be taken during item 11 here, and make sure you get your speaker cards in to Bev over here, and you get them in the back. And we'll have one report on items 11, 12, and 13, and I'll just go through those. First is our public hearing to receive comments on a proposed concept plan for proposed retail, office, restaurant uses in two 42-foot tall buildings, and to allow a 45-foot tall theater building within the town center commercial zoning district at 16725 East Verde River Drive, case CP 2011-06. And Bob's also going to talk about consideration of a proposed concept plan for the proposed buildings, and then that'll be outside of the public hearing, and also consideration of a resolution adopting a development agreement for the public improvements for the same buildings. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, all those wrapped up into one short presentation.
All right.
So this is the application for the concept plan approval for the Avenue Theater and Commercial Use Project. Tonight's proposal is a mixed-use project containing a theater, retail shops, restaurants, and office uses. The property is located at 16725 East Avenue of the Fountains. It is located on the southwest corner of the avenue and Verde River Drive, and is adjacent to the municipal complex directly behind the community center. This is the site plan. The project is proposed to be in two phases, Phase 1A and 1B. Phase 1A consists of three buildings: Building Q, Building M, and Building N. Building Q is the large building. It's a 60,362 square foot, 12-screen movie theater. It is proposed to be 45 feet tall, and that will require specific approval under the TCCD zoning district regulations. Building M is a 4,378 square foot, one-story attached building to the front of Building Q, right here. And that is proposed to be a martini bar and could potentially have an outdoor patio for dining. Building N is a 5,200 square foot, one-story space attached to Building Q. It currently proposes a video arcade / ice cream parlor, and that's on this side over here. Parking lots would also be constructed as part of Phase 1A. Phase 1B consists of two buildings, Buildings B and C. Building B is a three-story, 44,124 square foot building consisting of approximately 14,700 square feet of retail and approximately 29,500 square feet of office space. Building B is this building here along the avenue. Building C is also a three-story, 41,141 square foot building consisting of approximately 2,000 square feet of restaurant and 12,000 square feet of retail with 27,200 square feet of office space. Building C is the building directly south, or I guess it's east on that map. Both buildings B and C are currently proposed to be 42 feet high with retail and/or restaurant space on the ground floor and office space on the second and third floors. That height, again, being over 40 feet, does require specific approval under the TCCD zoning district regulations. Other items to note on the site plan, there are 843 total spaces for parking being considered. Those include 210 new spaces on site. 189 spaces will be built on the town property, consisting of 169 spaces in this area and another 20 spaces up here. The developers' 210 spaces are in these areas here. Additionally, 44 spaces are being considered on Avenue of the Fountain, 25 of which are in front of the Town Hall complex, and 19 are directly in front of this project. Additional to that, 400 spaces are in the existing Town Hall, Community Club, Library parking lots, and those are also being considered as part of the parking package for this development. Of those, 85 spaces are reserved for town use, and 24 are restricted for the parking lots, or for the project's use. Total available spaces for the general public use would be around 734 spaces. There are 3 loading areas on this site plan that would need specific approval. Generally, our code requires 12 by 45 loading areas. These are proposed to be 10 feet by 30. There's one loading area on this side near the compactor, and there's 2 loading areas in the back. And I would assume they would serve the other 2 buildings. The connections to the town property from this property, there's a vehicular connection in the parking lots located in this location. This would be the drive aisle that goes between the existing sheriff's lot and the town vehicle lot. And the pedestrian access is on the opposite corner over here. This is a stairway that connects the Centennial Circle area down to the parking lot there. There's a pedestrian plaza between the buildings, which is going to run from Verde River Drive up through. There will be potentially seating, dining, and shading areas in that area, but it's a pedestrian plaza. There will be no vehicles in that area. There's a grand entry and drop-off area for the theater, which will be located on Verde River Drive, and that will be a specifically designated area that'll have be within the public right-of-way. These are the building elevations. The buildings are proposed to have a contemporary southwest design. The top row shows buildings B and C as they would look from the Avenue of the Fountains. The center, that shows the south side of the theater building as it would look if you were in the condominiums next door. And the bottom row shows the front of the theater as it will look from Verde River Drive. These are a little small. The designs are better shown in a couple of the next slides. I did hand out a couple of the material boards for the council. You should have 2 of them up there. Those show what the materials of the building's exteriors will be. The applicant has stated that they may want to modify some of those materials and not use some of the stone treatments. This slide shows you the proposed front of Building Q, which is the theater. The proposed materials are slate, sandstone, stained concrete, copper, stainless steel, various earth tone paints and stuccos, and they're going to use energy-efficient glass. The upper left and upper right pictures in this slide show the pedestrian mall between the theater and the buildings B and C. The center shows Building M, which is attached to the front of the theater, and this will be the martini bar with the outdoor patio as well as indoor seating. The bottom left is Building C, and the bottom right is Building B. Those are on the avenue. The applicants have indicated these are the buildings that may want to eliminate a 3rd story, and they may also have their stone facades modified. The request to eliminate the need for the 3rd story could modify stipulation number 7 in the staff report. Just a quick wrap up. Specific approval, the applicants are asking for a specific approval of a 45-foot tall theater building, 2 other 42-foot tall commercial buildings, specific approval of 3 30 by 10 loading zones, They're using the shared parking model to arrive at the parking numbers that we've approved as being adequate under the TCCD zoning district. There will be right-of-way encroachments for their drop-off and patio areas, which will require separate permitting. And there is a development agreement proposed that, among other things, addresses the use of town property and the reciprocal parking agreement. Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommend that the Town Council approve the concept plan, including the increased building heights and loading space waivers as discussed, subject to the stipulations in the staff report, as well as the stipulation added by the Planning and Zoning Commission requiring reapproval of the concept plan if it should change. Staff also recommends approval of the development agreement, which outlines the responsibilities of the developer and the town as they relate to the development, including, among other things, the use and development of the town property for parking and the reciprocal parking agreement. That concludes my presentation. With the mayor's permission, the developer does have a presentation of their own, and they'd like to make that before the Q&A starts.
Good.
Let me shut this down and set you up.
Sure.
Hey, Bob, could you take this and just...
Yep, let me
The public,
fire this up first.
they want to see it up close. Good idea. Thanks, Paul. Mark, did you have anything to add to your presentation? Vice Mayor?
Mayor, before we start, I wanted to ask Bob. Bob, do you think you could do some definitions for us before we get started? Because some of the items that we've been talking about, maybe there's an assumption that everybody knows what they mean, including me. Like the difference between a concept plan, or what is a concept plan? What's a development agreement? Is an easement the same as the right-of-way? And TCCD, just so that we kind of know what we're talking about.
Concept plan, as far as the town's regulations are concerned, is a site plan, the site plan of a property, a proposed development. It also includes the architectural review and landscaping review of that property. So concept approval looks at the entire concept, the entire development approval. Development agreement. Development agreement is the agreement that the town would enter into with the developer for specific things such as sharing the parking with the town hall parking lots. There's a couple of pieces of property that the town currently owns, which the developer will be building a parking lot on for the use of both parties as well as the general public, things like that. So it's an agreement between the town and the developer.
So it's an agreement that is implements the concept plan? Excuse me, Mayor, is the concept plan binding on the development agreement or vice versa?
Andrew?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, I don't think that you could consider one binding on one or the other. They are, in this case, paired together, but they are separate approvals. The concept plan approval stands on its own, and the development agreement stands on its own. The development agreement does reference over to this concept plan, so any modifications to the concept plan would have to happen in conjunction with the development agreement as well. But I don't know that you can say that they are interrelated in any other way than that.
Thank you. And is right-of-way the same as an easement?
No, the right-of-way is actually the property that the town owns to put the roadways in and sidewalks. Easements are the rights of one party to use another party's property for a certain thing.
And TCCD?
TCCD stands for Town Center Commercial District. It's a zoning district. It's our downtown zoning district. It's a commercial zoning district.
Okay, thanks.
All right, continue the public hearing with a presentation from Mr. Fackler. How are you, sir?
Really good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name's Dave Fackler. I'm a partner in the development that you have before you this evening, the Avenue at the Fountain. Development partners, there's 4 of us all together. GMK Building and Development, that's George Kosnoff, a resident of Fountain Hills. Fackler Trust, that's my trust that is an investor within this project. Hafar Entertainment is Frank Hafar, who owns Maya Theaters in California, who will be the operator and manager of the theaters for this complex. and then Dennis Severs Companies out of Portland, who are major investors in athletic facilities as well as the theaters. He's essentially a direct partner with Frank Afar and Maya Theaters. Project architects, RSP Architects. With me this evening is my partner George Kosnoff, and then Jason Ploget with RSP Architects, who will also speak to any of the issues associated with the design. Project Builder, there has been a change in the Project Builder. It was previously AA Builders, but due to the financing package that has been put together to build this project, Adolfo Peterson Construction, which is a nationwide general contractor. Their Southwest Division is based in Tempe, and they will be the general for the project. We are committed, as well as Adolfo Peterson is committed, to wherever possible using Fountain Hills subcontractors, and we've made contact with a number of the subs that we hope to be able to use on this project. Obviously, bidding is not done because design is not totally done at this point, but that's one change over where we were before. Won't spend a great deal of time. Bob did a great overview of the project, explanation of it. Also, I'd like to thank Bob and the rest of the staff, the rest of the city members who have worked with us over the years trying to put this project or versions of this project together. Been great to work with. We have reviewed both the staff's report. We agree with all the conditions in that report, have no problem with them whatsoever. We've also worked with members of the staff to put together the development agreement, and it's a reciprocal parking agreement that's part of that development agreement. I think we inked that yesterday, if I remember right, or we were asked to sign a copy of it yesterday. Again, all those issues have been worked out, so we're ready to move forward with the project. Concept approval, of course, is a major step. From concept approval, we will then go into construction drawings, final biddings of the project, and hope to move forward with construction of this project, beginning with dirt work in March. Of course, this is a major step towards that. Bob again went through all the various square footages and whatnot. He hit on a point as it relates to buildings B and C, the office retail buildings along the avenue. We've been studying these buildings on an ongoing basis, primarily the office component, which is the upper two floors of those buildings. 56,000 square feet total, almost 57,000 square feet of office space. Current markets were not supporting the development of that much office space in Fountain Hills as much as we and as much as the town would like to see it. It looks as though at this point there's not going to be any way to fill that within a reasonably economic time frame. So we are at this point reserving the right to top off or lop off the upper floor of both buildings B and C. It may only be one, but right now it looks as though it will be both B and C, which will roughly half the office square footage. Still a significant amount of square footage, probably 28,000 square feet in general. But right now, again, the market is just so weak on office space. There's such a vacancy of office space, even here in Fountain Hills, that we really cannot justify moving forward with that much office space. Shared parking, again, Bob went through that previously. Just running through the elevations, Southwest Contemporary is a good way to look at it. There won't be any changes to the materials that you were shown there as it relates to this Phase 1A, the theater building and the two buildings that are attached to the theater buildings. Any changes in materials and design as a result of reducing the number of floors in buildings B and C, we will bring back to Planning and Zoning Commission and the Council in a revised concept plan as we move forward with those buildings and the redesign of those buildings. just corner building. This is Building C right at the Avenue and Verde River. Just a front view of the fountain, which will be our major art feature in compliance with the art ordinance here in Fountain Hills. That'll be a recirculating fountain and will be the major art component, although there are really art components throughout the plaza between the buildings culminating in that fountain. Just various planter walls and other aspects of that interior space. Building B, again, this would be the one of the buildings that upper floor would drop, and you can see that would require a redesign of the building to accommodate that. Martini Bar, the frontage space on Verde River in front of the theater. Back of the theater, even though it's from grade, it's only about 35 feet high. We've also put some covered parking, some green screens, that sort of thing, to aid with the reduction of the overall size of the building. Site plan you've seen before, but again, just a quick rehash of what Bob had. I'll hold any further comments and questions until after your public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Fackler. At this time, just remind folks to fill out a speaker card if you wish to speak on this item, which is covering items 11, 12, and 13. We'll take public comment here in a moment on those 3 items. Was there anything else staff to mention before we ask for speaker cards? And then we'll close after we hear from the Bev, after we hear from the public, then we'll close the public hearing and go on to the next item. Is that correct? Yep. All right, good. And I know there was a group here that was working with Bev to coordinate their comments, so are we ready for that?
Mayor, we have 20 speaker cards. Would your preference be that I call 3 names at a time?
I think that's good. That works.
I'll call 3 names at a time, that way you'll know in which order you're to come up. Mike Wagner, followed by Tim Call, followed by Jean Rollo.
Welcome, and I'll just remind everybody, up to 3 minutes and 20 speakers if you do the math. That can add up. So try not to be repetitive and be concise, but we do appreciate the comments. We also had some, I think, presented on paper as well that we have in our packets, but make sure you also speak into the microphone.
Gotcha.
And welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. My name is Mike Wager. My neighbors and I would like to take a few minutes of your time to discuss the proposed theater complex being considered. The theater project is an enormous undertaking, obviously, for Fountain Hills. We believe that much more consideration should be given to the project before it gets approved by the City Council. We realize that most everyone would like to have a movie theater in their community. I'm sure most everybody in the room probably would. But to approve the plan which is on the table as is, with no attempt to address the negatives, both real and potential, raises serious questions. When you look at the project from a 30,000-foot level, it sounds really good. Obviously, a movie theater and walkways and martini bar and aesthetics. But when you get down to the street level, it seems like there's a lot of other issues to be considered. There'll be a lot more asphalt, a huge structure that, if it succeeds, great. If not, you have a monolithic structure that's adding an additional 155,000 square feet of space that could add to our existing vacancies. Another point that I don't believe has been raised is regarding one of the developers that is planning the project. This developer was involved with the Water's Edge project, which was unsuccessful and created a vacancy along Saguaro Boulevard. Is this the developer we want to be involved in this project? If for some reason the project fails, who's on the hook? Is it the taxpayers? Has that been considered? As residents of Fountain Hills, we need to give this much more scrutiny. The aspects of this aggressive project should at the very least be moderated based on public opinion. A similar project was discussed back in 2008, and the plan was much more realistic but deemed inappropriate. yet a much more aggressive and unrealistic plan is now being considered. This makes no sense and is totally contrary to what our community stands for. Over the next few minutes, you will hear from some of the other residents of Fountain Hills with various concerns we have that you may or may not have considered. These issues include realistic feasibility, parking lot access, excessive parking, environmental issues, security concerns. So we'd like you to consider these comments that we have coming up. That's about all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wager.
Tim Call.
Welcome, Mr. Call. You have a handout?
I have a handout.
All right.
I'll wait just a moment until those handouts make their way around.
The next three speakers will be Gigi Lutz, Lee Miller, and John Fraser.
So my name is Tim Call, and I live in the Village at Town Center community that's at the southern end of the proposed project. So Mayor and Town Council, I'm standing before you today to discuss some of the economics that involve the proposed project. What I have collected in the brief presentation that you have before you comes from credible online sources like the National Association of Theater Owners, from the Arizona Republic newspaper, and from walking the Fountain Hills business corridor to assess for myself the current state of Fountain Hills commercial real estate. Please go to slide 2. Pollution has an economic impact. I have lived in this community for 17 years. Over that time, I have repeatedly heard that the Northeast Valley, inclusive of Fountain Hills, has the highest level of ozone pollution in the Phoenix metropolitan area. The Arizona Republic has been running a series of articles on pollution problems. Directly related to the proposed development project in question are the following quotes from the newspaper. Researchers say ozone can form near paved parking lots as surface heat mixes with cars' gasoline fumes. People are exposed to pollution that over time can sicken them and shorten their lives. Much to my surprise, and you have this on your slide, weather.com shows average high temperatures every bit as hot in Fountain Hills as Phoenix. I urge you to take this into consideration as it pertains to the parking proposed for the current city-owned property adjacent to the Village at Town Center residences. Slide 3. Existing empty commercial property in Fountain Hills. CityFeet.com lists 38 available properties. My walkabout town yesterday was quite humbling. I listed some of what I found at the bottom of the slide, but just for everyone's notification, I can say there's the Blockbuster Video Store, the former Blockbuster Video Store, the former Beal Store, and the Safeway Center, vacant units in the Bashes complex, and 8 empty units that front Avenue of the Fountains. The economic concern here is the negative valuation and lease impact on current commercial properties if significant additional commercial property is added to the mix as part of the proposed project. Slide 4. The National Association of Theater Owners website contains U.S. and Canada theater admission results from 1987 through 2010. I graphed this information for you, provided a best fit trend line. Theater admissions were highest in 2002 and have trended downward since. This information should be carefully weighed in the decision-making process for the proposal. Slide 5, 5 reasons why people are not going to the movies. I'll just mention a couple here. I'm sure most people know these. But home entertainment technology has dramatically improved while costs have fallen. Many people have video-on-demand services available at home. And our in-the-tank economy, along with rising theater admission pricing, is the proverbial elephant in the room.
You can go ahead quickly and finish your
I'll
slide.
jump to the conclusion. In conclusion, economics concerns warrant additional research and community involvement in the decision-making process. I urge you to not make any decisions until careful consideration of concerns that you hear this evening. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thanks, Mr. Call.
Jean Rollo.
I do have a handout.
Here, you can just hand it to me. I'll split it up. Welcome, Gene.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council of Fountain Hills, I'm Jean Rollo, a resident of Village of Town Center, Unit 1056. And I've come before you to express concern about the increased automobile traffic and traffic patterns which will be generated by the Avenue and Movie Theater project. My concern is increased by the fact that no official traffic impact analysis has been conducted prior to tonight's request for approval of the project. Such a study, as outlined by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, would consider the following. Base traffic condition. This will address present traffic volume and flow on Saguaro, Paul Norden, Verdi River, and Avenue of the Fountains. Site traffic generation will cover hundreds of vehicles, creating additional volume as they come from two directions and converge on the intersection of Verdi River Drive and Paul Norden Parkway. Site distribution includes the flow of these hundreds of cars from the parking lot onto Paul Norden and Verdi River. Non-site traffic projections looks at the impact of traffic flow on Verdi River, Paul Norden, and all the other surrounding streets. Traffic assignments estimate and predict where and when traffic will occur, predominantly evenings and weekends. And future traffic conditions consider the future growth in and around the town center commercial district. As stated at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last Thursday, traffic matters will be examined at a future date, and the findings will not impact the building process. Instead, the only action available to the town will be to withhold a certificate of occupancy for an already completed building until traffic issues are mitigated. In the words of your own town engineer, and it's in page 158 of your agenda tonight, a delay in obtaining such information could result in off-site traffic mitigations of over $1 million. And then I give you a small example of something that I myself noticed, which you can read. Our Village of Town Center is located next to the huge parking lot attached to the proposed new movie theater. In addition, the two primary points of entrance and exit for this parking lot are immediately adjacent to our community. Therefore, the impact of greatly increased traffic volume on Verdi River Drive and Paul Norden Parkway is a primary import to us. All cars entering and exiting the parking lot as currently envisioned will pass within 25 feet of our buildings, creating traffic noise and after dark the repeated glare of headlights in our homes. Why must these two-lane, non-through streets bordering a residential community provide primary access to the theater parking lot? Could access be created from the commercial area along the four-lane Avenue of the Fountains, or from the significantly wider La Montagne Drive? In addition, some sort of buffer between our community and the parking traffic lot is requested in the form of a wall along Paul Norden Parkway and the right-of-way and/or landscaping to minimize the traffic impact. These and many other concerns caused me to urge that you please do not take action on this project prior to serious consideration of mitigating the traffic issues which it will create. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
Gigi Lutz, Lee Miller, and John Fraser.
Hey, all right.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm Gigi Lentz, and I live at the Village of Town Center, the only residential complex directly affected by the plans to develop the Avenue Movie Theater project, including a significant parking lot, part of which uses town land donated to the developer. My focus is the south end of the proposed parking lot, which is adjacent to our complex. The proposed area for vehicles to enter and exit the parking lot is at the end of Verdi River Drive, where it meets Paul Norden Parkway. When entering and exiting the parking lot at night, the headlights of the vehicles will shine right into our buildings. In the 2008 plans for this area, the town property was to be used as a gateway garden. The idea then was to have a walkway and vegetation connecting to the present walkway along Paul Norden Parkway from the library and the community center down to Saguaro Boulevard and the focal point in Fountain Hills, the lake, and the fountain. This concept would be a beautiful complement to the library community center and the new Centennial Circle complex. With this new proposal, the developer has eliminated the area that was proposed for a walkway and vegetation and has replaced it with a blacktop to provide parking spaces. These changes significantly impact not only our residents at the Village at Town Center, but also all Fountain Hills citizens who want the town to continue to be a beautiful place to live and visit. Fountain Hills is a dark skies community, which is one of the many significant features of the community's attraction and culture. The proposed parking lot is to be a 24/7 facility, so the overhead lighting will impact not only the residents who live close by, but also the larger community. Now consider the noise of the vehicles and the impact of carbon monoxide exhaust from the vehicles. Consider also downpours of monsoon weather conditions, which may cause runoff problems from the parking lot into the residential area. Finally, consider the impact of the high temperatures, which will result from the sun shining all day on blacktop. The size and scope of the parking lot will increase these aspects of the project. The 3 buildings on the Village at Town Center most affected are 3 to 5 feet below the present grade of the parking area. Headlights from the vehicles entering and exiting the parking facility will shine into both the lower and upper floors of these buildings. Additionally, the lower floors have the potential of having the accumulation of exhaust and carbon monoxide fumes, since this substance is heavier than air, and I'm sure you'll agree that this is not a healthy situation. Given that the parking lot is larger than the commercial project requires, as noted by the developer representative at the January 26, 2012 Planning and Zoning meeting, and giving consideration to the issues presented by our Village at Town Center residents, we respectfully ask you to reconsider the donation of Fountain Hills public land to build a parking lot of this size without a significant buffer to the community.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz.
Lee Miller?
Welcome, Mr. Miller. Good, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Lee Miller and I live at the Village at Town Center. According to the planned project introduced to the Planning Commission last week, the developer made the following points. There was a planned wall 6 feet high along the end of the south parking section, but they were not going to build it. There was a planned vegetation along the area, but they were not going to plant it. There was a planned walking area along that area, but they were not going to construct it. According to the architect and developer, there are 60 spaces more than required for parking if the project is built as planned. Studies done on similar theater projects around the metropolitan area and other metropolitan areas around the country per the developer show that only 68% of the parking space is actually utilized. The question is, why is the planned project adding 60 more spaces than required to the detriment of the only residential area near it? Has an environmental study been done and how it will affect the adjacent residents? Who is going to be responsible and liable if there is proven pollution and water hazards from the parking lot being so close to the buildings? Presently, the developer says they are not responsible or liable for anything. Village at Town Center does not have a fence in that area. Is the city or developer going to pay for one to be constructed so pedestrian traffic does not trespass our property? Who is going to build this wall and when? Who's going to plant the vegetation and when? Who is going to construct the walkway and when? We would like to present a solution that we believe will reduce the impact of all the above related issues to the parking lot adjacent to our property if this project is approved. The property owned by the city of Fountain Hills reverts back to previous intentions of a gateway garden with a walkway, and all parking is removed from that area. This will move the parked vehicles from 50 feet away to 150 feet away. Planned walkway, vegetation, and a wall of 6 feet above the blacktop are reinstated. This will reduce the immediate glare of the headlights, the potential deadly problem of carbon monoxide poisoning, and the potential water runoff into our complex. The town property parking portion containing 73 of these spaces are not necessary per the utilization study or the projected required parking. The people of Village at Town Center work hard to be a good neighbor. We are hoping the city of Fountain Hills developer and owner also want to be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Frazier?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of Town Council. My name is John Fraser, and I'm a homeowner in the Village of Town Center. And I come before you tonight to speak about the issue of parking spaces, specifically the amount of parking spaces in and around our Fountain Hills Town Center and the increase in parking spaces that the proposed Avenue project will create. With regard to the number of parking spaces in the Town Center area, I offer the following. This proposed Avenue project will add another 399 parking spaces. These 399 spaces are in addition to the 400 spaces that currently exist to serve the municipal complex. In addition to that, there is a very, very conservative estimate of 465 very underutilized spaces located on and around Parkview Avenue that frankly are in need of some tender loving care. That totals a very conservative estimate of 1,264 dedicated parking lot spaces. And this is above and beyond what's permitted for on-street parking in the center of our town. I believe that number is excessive and will result in a lot of empty asphalt, more asphalt in the center of our town, empty asphalt. With regard to the Avenue parking proposal, some of the land of the new 399 spaces will come from the town. As per the town agreement, the town is donating 1 3/4 acres of your unimproved desert land to this project, resulting in another 189 unnecessary parking spaces. The parking study model on page 155 of the agenda states that the total shared parking is 843 spaces, is in excess of the projected required need by either 58 or 106 spaces, depending upon the day of the week. And even Mr. Fackler, one of the developers, testified before the P&Z Commission that in his experience, a 68 to 70% utilization of required parking is reality. That translates into an excess of 253 spaces. Whether reality is 58, 106, or 253 less needed parking spaces, I suggest that the town not turn over its land to become more asphalt. I further suggest that together the town council and the developer enter into discussion with the Parkview Merchants Group about incorporating their underutilized 465 parking spaces into the Avenue project and perhaps giving it a needed facelift. In conclusion, it appears to me that we have a situation within the existing and to be developed town center area in which structures, by that I mean places of business, offices, are servicing the needs of parking lots, as opposed to the opposite concept of parking should service the needs of structures or businesses. Please don't perpetuate this situation by approving this resolution tonight without taking time for further review. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Next three speakers, Janet Call, Sid Shegaby, and Wendy Kelleher.
I'm Janet Call. I live at 16800 El Lago Boulevard in the Village at Town Center. I learned from Mr. Rogers there will be a separating wall at the south end of the parking lot, 6 feet high at the west end and 0 feet at the east end. Nowhere on the developer's concept plan does this wall show up. My concern is that the developer is not intending to screen the parking lot from the land to the south. I wonder how many of the town council members have had the opportunity to physically walk this parcel. Mr. Rogers was quite surprised to learn that there is no fence between the town land and the homes to the south. Their north sides are completely exposed to this vacant parcel presently. It appears that the development agreement allows the developer to use all of the vacant land during construction phases, which means that heavy construction equipment will be so close to the homes adjacent and exposed to the property. Some homes are below the grade of the parcel, and this may be problematic. The stability of the land during 2 years of construction is unknown. I encourage the council to step back, take time to carefully review concerns and adverse impacts. Please, imagine yourselves in the homes of the Village at Town Center residents and observe negative aspects of this proposal. It seems the town should focus on the well-being of its constituents, including the 145 families living close by. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole.
Sid Shigaby?
Hey, Sid, how are you?
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for allowing us to come and present some real serious concerns that we have regarding the proposed area of development. I am Sid Shigaby, also a resident of Village at Town Center, and I'm here to share some of these thoughts and concerns with you about the south end of the proposed parking lot adjacent to the Village at Town Center property line. And for reference, if you could just look at your colored handout, the area I'm referring to is encircled there in the bottom left-hand corner. And that area represents the very south end of the proposed blacktop parking lot. What I want to say, first of all, is that Fountain Hills is a very neat, clean, and well-planned community where development has been done with quality and good taste. This includes buildings, landscaping, fountain, parks, and residential areas. In other words, we have a good reputation. Our deep concern with this new plan is regarding the south end of that blacktop parking lot that will now come right up to the Village at Town Center property line. This area is a natural for a beautiful gateway garden art walk which connects with what already exists by the library and community center, as well as preserves the property values and privacy of the Village at Town Center residents. The library and community center and nearby artwork, including the Centennial Circle and the greening project, are all so complementary and all work together and add to the charm of Fountain Hills. Now, the east end of the artwork display ends abruptly and turns into a dusty gravel road. We would rather see a continuum of the artwork down to Verde River Drive and then on to the fountain area. What better way is there to connect all the pieces? We're recommending that the Town Council recommend a 150-foot wide area at the south end of the proposed parking lot for development of this walkway. The work should be done by the developer as the project progresses.
I'll have to wrap it up, Mr. Shigaby.
Okay. One other quick thing. I'd like to say, step back and take a look at this thing, big picture, and look at this development project as an opportunity to develop and enhance the Fountain Hills area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kelleher, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, my name is Wendy Kelleher, and I am a resident and the owner of a condo in the complex most seriously impacted by this proposal. I also serve on the Village of Town Center HOA Board of Directors, and thus feel a keen responsibility to do what I can do to ensure that our property values and our quality of life are safeguarded from those who either do not care or do not know about the flaws in this proposal. I hope that by now you will have come to the same conclusion as this small delegation of Fountain Hills residents and taxpayers, that there are serious flaws in the proposed concept plan for the theater complex, all the way from a weak understanding of the economics of a small town to unthought-out traffic flow issues to light, sound, and heat pollution to excessive and unnecessary parking spaces. This concept plan is obviously a solution arrived at in the heat of desperation. The thought that in order to jumpstart Fountain Hills' economy, we have to frantically grab any solution that comes along, regardless of the cost. The proposal is asking the residents of the Village at Town Center, and Mr. Mayor, you used to live there, so you know where we're coming from, and indeed all of us in Fountain Hills who value the quality of life, to sacrifice too much. My husband and I sell real estate all over the valley, and we see firsthand what happens when a community sacrifices thoughtful aesthetics to the god of urgency. Ugly, disjointed blocks of property with no sense of unity or coherence, million-dollar homes next to junkyards and trash heaps, beautiful luxury condos with black tarred parking lots 10 feet from their patios. The attraction of buying a home and conducting business in Fountain Hills is this, and primarily this. We have a vision our town councils and mayors have had for the past 40 years. The vision and dedication to artistic unity, a town that has personality. So because of the flaws in the proposed concept plan for the theater, we strongly urge you, council members, to not approve this proposal until after the questions that we have raised, those of us who live at the Village at Town Center and who will suffer the most serious impact, until our questions have been answered and this proposal has been modified to more accurately reflect the values, personality, and vision of Fountain Hills. Thank you, Mr. McDermott, the scenic destination that we all believe in and moved here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Keller.
Lisa Wagner?
I'm going to pass. My neighbors have addressed all my concerns.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bill Luzinski, followed by Mary Ann Michaels and Rennie Middleton.
Welcome, Ms. Luzinski.
Evening, everyone. As you know, my name is Bill Lazinski. The movie theater is a good idea, but the location and size is wrong. Instead of a 12-screen, why not 6? That would better fit our community and the communities nearby. The better location would be on Shea Boulevard, not down in town center, west of Technology Drive, where the town owns 14 acres. Besides, those who live in Fountain Hills would be using it, and the theater would be seen by people driving on Shea as they go out to Saguaro Lake, or those coming from Mesa going to Scottsdale. Other movie theaters are on major roadways or in malls, such as Shea 14 on Shea and Scottsdale Road. AMC Mesa 24 is at Stapley and 60. Not somewhere where you have to try and find and locate the theater. Where is it at? 3.5 miles. It's someplace that you really can't see. So, in conclusion, the idea of a movie theater is good, but the current planned location is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luzinski. Welcome, Mary Ann.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Mary Ann Michaels, and I'm wearing 3 hats tonight. I'm a resident, I am a Fountain Hills real estate agent, and I'm also the originator of the proposed Fountain Hills Urban Garden and Learning Center. And as a resident, I'm I'm thrilled to see the movie theater come into town. I go over the hill or over to Tempe for new released movies. And you can't have that if you have a smaller complex. That's why you need a larger 12-plex complex in order to get the newly released movies. And this is an $18 million investment. I think that's a wonderful statement that someone's going to invest $18 million in our town. I also feel that it's going to bring people up from probably Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard into our town, maybe over to East Mesa, certainly Rio Verde, certainly North Scottsdale. And I think that's a plus for us. And our downtown needs some life. As a realtor, I can tell you when I'm showing my clients, I usually point out, the fountain. Here's our downtown. And since 2003, I've always said we have a proposed movie theater coming into town, as it became a reality a few years ago. And I thought it was going then. I mean, we really marketed that to our potential clients that were moving in town. People want to know what they can do after they come home from work. And I think that, lastly, that as we're working on the proposed Fountain Hills Urban Garden and Learning Center, we need this foot traffic, especially this out-of-area foot traffic. And I see it as a plus. It looks beautiful, and I hope that the other issues can be worked out, and I'd like to buy the first ticket. Thank you.
Thanks, Marion. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mayor and council members. I agree. We would like to have a movie theater here, but to have 12 screens and a huge building sitting here on Avenue of the Fountains instead of something that has like 6 theaters like Camel View where people go, I mean, it's always full. You go down to Mesa or Tempe to those movie houses and there sits maybe 5 people in all these 12 screens that they have down there. I don't know that we always need the first movies that come out the second they come out. Why can't we wait a couple weeks and look at some movies that are maybe foreign, educational? What have you got? When I look at these plans and I see that visualize it downtown Fountain Hills, it's like a big white elephant. What happens if people from Fountain Hills don't fill these seats in the movie theater and we sit there and suddenly it closes, and what are you going to put in this huge building? Certainly not a bowling alley or anything, but I feel that we should reconsider this whole project and to have all this commercial property that is true, like somebody mentioned, we have so many empty ones, and to just keep adding more. And we are limited with space for homes, and we are limited with people moving into town. We're not a Scottsdale or a Mesa that just expands and expands. We are, we have our borders, and what are we going to do with all this? I just hope you're going to consider, having a nice town like it is and not just some huge Scottsdale-looking complex like Kierland or something. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next 3 speakers, Frank Ferrara, Tim O'Rourke, and Jeff Cohen.
Welcome, Mr. Ferrara.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Dickey, members of the council. Excuse me, my name is Frank Ferrara, and I represent the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce as a president, CEO, and I come here this evening to ask that you support this project. This is a project that has been well thought out. By the way, I forgot one thing. Chairman of our board, Sean White, was going to come, but he had a previous engagement he couldn't get out of, so he's not here. That's why he's not here. In any event, as you all recall, we supported this project from the outset. We're talking about, say, 2006 and 2007. So we supported this project when it was a bigger project than it is now, when we knew that that area, the 13 and a half acres on the south side, was going to be commercially developed. We knew that there were homes out there. The people that bought those condos there knew that that was commercial property on the north side of them. So we knew basically that this was going to be developed. It's only a matter of when. We don't look at this project as a movie theater solely. We look at it as an entertainment center. We look at it something that could be vibrant for our middle of our downtown area. I would like to remind members of the council, the Urban Land Institute. Remember that little group that came in to look at our vision plan and give us some help, comments, and so on? And what did they say? If you want a vibrant downtown, you've got to have something there on that south side. And what is the something? We have to have some gathering places, no matter what they are. Theaters, restaurants, bars. We have to have some activity. People aren't going to come to Fountain Hills the way it is now. We bring them here. You saw Mark's presentation, how we bring them here. We spend a lot of money doing it, and we'll spend a lot more doing it. So we need something for them to do when they get here. Maybe they're not all outdoor enthusiasts. Maybe they're not. And who knows, maybe the theater will dedicate a couple screens to something like a camel view, which is all arts. We don't know, and that's really none of our concern. I realize that. But it is, and we need something vibrant in this town. And this is one of the things that we support in the past, and we continue to support it, and we support it in the future. By the way, one other thing before that light goes off. You recall, we spent almost 2 years developing a vision plan for this town. It was community-oriented. By that I mean residents turned out by the droves to give comments. Damn it. Anyway, it's voted in, it's in our general plan. This plan, and remember, it's area-specific, 3 sites in that vision plan. This is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Welcome, Mr. O'Rourke. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Mr. Mayor, council members, just short and sweet, nothing complicated. My wife and I love the movies. Our son's involved in the business in Hollywood, and we go at least once a week to the movies. And we're tired of driving half hour, 40 minutes over to Tempe or Mesa or Scottsdale and giving them our money. We were in Scottsdale Quarter, pardon me, earlier this week, had dinner, movie, drinks, went around the shopping area, probably spent $200 or $300. I would have much rather spent the money here in Fountain Hills, invested in the town. The theater will be an anchor that future development in a social area can be built around. I was very impressed by the presentation by the Visitors Bureau. They're doing a lot of work to bring people to Fountain Hills, but I would fear that it was all for naught if they came and said, well, there's really not much here, especially in the evening. If you're going to bring visitors to your town, you want to hold them, you want them to come back again and again. Just as a quick rebuttal to some of the arguments I've heard, the commercial operator of the theater would not be coming here if he hadn't done his homework. He's a very well-known operator, and he's done this in small towns. He knows that he can be a success. And if every business that applied to build a building in Fountain Hills had to guarantee success to get permission to build the building, you would never have economic development. The town would die. And he knows how many screens have to be also to be a commercial. That's all business decisions, not for us to make, really. And I would just say that if an entity stops growing, it starts dying. And Fountain Hills will start dying if we don't continue to grow, especially economically, and give people a reason to come here and spend money. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Cohen.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'd like to just expound on what was just said there. First of all, as members of our government, we're not here to pick winners and losers, okay? Entrepreneurs come to our town, and they take that responsibility themselves. I'd like to address a couple, basically rebuttal, because I sat there listening and just getting scared. The Village of Town Center, it's a beautiful location, and I imagine most of the people who moved there, bought places there, they did so because it was downtown, they could walk to the downtown area. I don't believe they ever imagined that a cemetery would be built or just a park would be built right in the entire downtown across from there. They had to know something was being built there. I've heard it's like people who move next to an airport and complain about planes flying over, okay? And it's only from those people. The benefits, okay? Additional attraction, bring visitors downtown, okay? I've heard location being an issue. No one will find it. People find our fountain every single day. People find our arts fair 2 times a year. From the St. Patty's Day that we're new. I mean, we fill up that downtown area. So I don't think location's an issue. Nightlife is something this town is severely lacking. I think we have 4 or 5 places to go. I look at nightlife for our kids, for our teenagers, jobs for our teenagers. If you have teenagers and they're looking for a job, they don't look in Fountain Hills. They drive 20, 30, 40 minutes into Mesa or Scottsdale to get a job, okay? If you've ever had a kid driving in a car, okay, the day in, day out trying to get a job like that, it's not an enjoyable time, okay? The loss of life is tremendous. Increased income for the town. We make our income off of taxes, period, okay? Sales taxes, that's, I believe, I'm correct in saying that. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this thing does absolutely fit into the zoning model that has been brought forth for years, since ever I've been a member of this community. We did the entire focus groups that our chamber president, CEO mentioned. It fits with the downtown. We can't make everybody happy. I understand that. I understand that you don't have a fence there, but you know, I know when my neighbor moved in, I didn't have a fence. They wouldn't build one for me. So I don't mean to be rude with this, but it's a wonderful opportunity for us, and I hope you guys really take it to heart, and I'll trust in your judgment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Last 4 speaker cards, Al Donaldson, I believe it's Jim, is it Cottrell? John Lindsay, and then Jerry Kirkendall.
Welcome, Mr. Donaldson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Al Donaldson, and I'm a 16-year resident in Fountain Hills and business owner, a member of the Fountain Hills Licensed Contractors Association, and my corporation, Double D Construction, has been selected to do the site work for this project. We're very excited about that for the positive economic impact for my employees and their families, and for the impact, the ripple effect that will hit our town with all the existing businesses, even during construction and well afterward, for, you know, as far as everything that goes on. All these contractors and people that come to town that are doing business and have, you know, go to the restaurants and everything else during this construction, and the project, you know, creates so many jobs afterwards, and just the positive financial impact of this city, I think, or this town, is wonderful. And I'm really excited about being involved with this project, and I look forward to you approving this, and so we can get started and get moving on with something that's positive in Fountain Hills. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson.
Jim Cottrell?
Mr. Cottrell may have left.
I don't see him. John Lindsay, and then Jerry Kirkendall.
Welcome, Mr. Lindsay.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm here on behalf of the theater. I'm hoping that it does get approved due to the fact I have a 10-year-old son, and it would be great to take him to the movies here in town, not have to drive to Scottsdale for his birthday party or a Friday night out with him, along with his baseball team and football team, to spend my money over there. And as far as environmental impact. I don't know how paving a parking lot is going to warm the town of Fountain Hills, but I guess some people think it will. And air quality control, sooner or later, will make us pave all dirt lots, whether it's now or in 5 or 10 years, either millings or something put on them to improve air quality. And I guess I hope it gets approved, and that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
Jerry Kirkendall?
Good evening, Jerry. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Hi, Dan. Jerry Kirkendall, I've lived here over 30 years. In the past, we've had a lot of problems of people against things. It doesn't matter what it is. I heard these exact arguments almost against the high school. I heard them against Target. The criminals were going to hang out here if we had a Target up here. I mean, it's just, there's always reason to say no to something. But we need to get this town going. And it needs to be downtown, not at Target. The street, there's nobody walking down the street. And you have to have things on both sides of the street to have a town. It's never going to be one otherwise. And that's always been zoned for commercial. I went to Colorado and looked at a town, same size as we are, Durango. They have 13 screens, and they do fine, we draw people, like other people have said, from all over the valley. I think a lot, it'd be a reason for people to come up here. And if they go up here and go to the movie, they get out, they're going to be hungry, they're going to eat, and so on. 20,000 people in this town, if they service this town, would be busy. But there's nothing to do, so they go out of town. We all do. We go down there. We go to movies all the time. When we're there, we eat and buy things. I'd rather do that much more here in hundreds of other cities. I get all day long from customers how people want that. I have girls come in, and let's say in their 30s, that are money makers. And they move up here and say, God, I love this town. And then after the next time they come and say, gee, I brought my friends up and there's nothing to do. The next time they come and say, well, I think we're moving back to the valley. We need spenders. We need people that are alive and do things. And we're not getting enough of that. We're mostly built out. So, income-wise, we need this. Plus, I heard this thing's costing $31 million. That's like $31 million present we're getting. I don't think we can afford to turn that away. Studies do show it will make it, The height, I'm not worried about. This building's over 40 feet high, and it's on the higher ground. If that's 45 feet, it's going to be lower than this building. So I don't see where that's a real big problem. We had a school closed down already. Well, people would love to live here with kids. There's not enough to do. I mean, we don't want our schools closing down. That's really a bad reputation for the town. I don't know, you can just go on and on and on. But I just don't see, they approved this at the planning and zoning, and I hope you do it right away, and we don't beat it to death and talk about it for years. We need to get this rolling, and most people definitely want it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kirkendall. Mr. Contrell was our number 20, huh? All right. Yes, is council in favor of taking a quick 5-minute break, and we'll come back in 5 minutes, maybe 7. 8:45, we'll be right back. speaker, one more speaker, and then we will close our public hearing.
Evelyn Munn.
Welcome, Ms. Munn.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is sort of deja vu for me all over again, because not with everyone on the council, but certainly when we had an issue in my neighborhood, I still go back to the way we were condescended to, the way we were ignored, the way we were treated. And I sympathize with the people here, because it is the people that make up this community. And precisely whose town is it anyway, except the people who live here? They have problems with this project. They have verifiable projects. They have problems about traffic. They have problems about 155,000 square foot building. We've never seen that before in this town, go right on a piece of property. They have problems with circulation. They have problems with air and environment and pollution. The people who live here make up this town. It's about time we listen to them.
And we will, with that, we will close our public hearing, or the public hearing, and move on to item 12, consideration of a proposed concept plan for proposed retail office restaurant use in two 42-foot tall buildings, and to allow a 45-foot tall theater building within the town center commercial zoning district at 16725 East Verde River Drive, KCP 2011-06. Council, questions, comments? Councilmember Leger.
Mayor, if I may, Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers' neighborhood here. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
It's a funny joke.
You know.
Never heard it before.
Break the tension a little. Mr. Rogers, you know, we have, we look at scale here, we look at scale here, we look at a lot of different drawings here, and I'll ask you a simple question, and I'll do the math as you speak. What is the distance between the condo and their property line? What is that setback?
It's approximately 25 feet off the property line.
25 feet. And from their property line to the last bay of the parking on that south side, what is that distance?
That's another 25 feet.
25 feet. And if I was to take a lane of parking, it's my understanding that a parking space is 19 feet. You've taught me well. And the roadway is 20 feet. Is that correct?
The depth of the parking space is definitely 19. I believe the roadway is a little bit wider than that. It's 26 feet. You're talking about the drive aisle?
Yes, drive aisle.
26 feet wide.
26. Okay. So that gets us about 100 feet. Do you recall in the 2008 plan, I've heard some discussion this evening about a 2008 plan that wasn't a feasible plan. That plan was feasible, and that plan passed by a unanimous council vote of 7-0. I'm not trying to correct anyone, I'm just using that for my own point of reference. Because in the last week, I went back and looked at that original plan that was passed, and I wanted to see what was different about that plan versus this plan that has created so much concern for you all in your area. And in that particular plan, the parking lot was pretty much where it was. The only difference was we had an art walk that I think was a little wider. And the art walk was considered a buffer, and the art walk was contained in the plan. So what I'm trying to do here, despite comments, is be responsive to what you're saying and what I've heard. And a lot of what I've heard here, not all of it, has something to do with this buffer, this space, this green belt. And when I do my math here, I see that if we were able to remove one of those lanes and remove, that would be approximately 49 spaces. And we know from our analysis, and it has been pointed out by a gentleman or two this evening, your daytime use is over by 58 spots. So we're cutting it short. But if we could move this back by 50 spots, we could gain ourselves 40 more feet, if that's doable. We'll have to speak to those involved in the project. So I'm just kind of putting that out as a starting point in terms of being responsive to what I've heard this evening. I've looked at this plan. I was involved in the 2008 plan for 2 years. It was passed. It was unanimous. It didn't go away for any other reason other than the lending industry fell out everywhere in the universe. That's why that project went away. And to me, those were the differences. The other side of this is that I think if we move in this direction, Mayor, thank you, I'll be done in just a second here, that there's a higher feasibility that this could be successful because we're talking about a smaller condensed plan versus a larger one. You know what we had proved in the past was 12 acres. And this is a much smaller plan. So I respect what you're saying, and that's one possible workable solution that I have, top of head. One more comment, Mayor, if I may. The reason why that art walk was taken out by the developer was because it was a conversation that took place with the developer to basically say, if we move that away from the developer and the town took responsibility for that, the town could get the art committee involved, it could get the greening committee involved, and also the urban garden people to make that all work rather than just have a contractor, no offense, just slap up, some little walkway, and I'm not sure they would have done it that particular way. But just trying to be looking at both sides of this. So I heard that this evening, and that was the reason it was taken out of the plan. What was also taken out of the plan was the improvements on the streetscape on the Avenue of the Fountain, because the town, we want to get involved in that. We want to design that one that's necessary. So, Mayor, I'm just tossing that out as a possibility. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good. Thanks, Councilmember Leger. Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly understand everything that we talked about this evening. And as far as the dust control, Maricopa County now has an extremely strict dust control plan that if you don't adhere to, they will stop your project and they will shut you down. So we can take the dust control or the dust problem, 99% of that conversation out of it, because it is as heavily regulated as anything we do in the construction industry. I'm going to go one step further. If I could talk to the developer, please.
Mr. Fackler?
Thank you very much. We're talking about the parking lot that is circled. I'm sure you're quite familiar with it. And if we were to eliminate the 43 feet of asphalt and the concrete curb that goes around it and leave the parking island and construct a 6-foot wall at would be the south side of the island, we would then be 130 plus or minus 130 feet from the nearest townhome, and we would be you'd be saving the money for the asphalt and the curb, which would probably pay for that fence. And then we're down to talking about building a sidewalk. Make sense?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Brown, the only issue I have on the parking issue is that the 58 spaces extra that we show on there is for the overall Phase 1A and Phase 1B. My only concern is we're getting a lot of feedback from the community that we don't have enough restaurant space or food service space planned in our proposed development. So the caveat would be, until we redo those parking calculations and the traffic study that would go along with those, I sure don't have a problem conceptually with what you're doing or what you're proposing. One thing I would like to correct here is that, and it's difficult to read on the plan, I understand, and especially with the art walk and the associated landscaping not being on the plan, with the town saying that, you know, they want to take on that responsibility. Along that edge of the parking is essentially your 6-foot wall. There is a retaining wall because the parking lot is actually cut into the slope of the hill. So even though the art walk is at natural grade, goes from the community center, drops approximately 8 feet down to Verde River Drive. Along that edge, there is a retaining wall. The parking lot is cut into grade of Verde River Drive. So the cars sitting in that parking lot, their lights can't shine into the adjacent property because of that retaining wall. They will be parking up against that retaining wall. In addition to that, obviously there will be trees and shrubs and whatnot built in the art walk when the town does that. So the 50-foot of setback buffer that's currently between the edge of the parking lot and the nearest condo, the lower levels of those condos, of course, are about 5 feet below that natural grade. And again, on the other side of that natural grade, we're down about 6 feet. So there's no opportunity for, in all likelihood, those people would not even see the parking lot, let alone any light shining into their windows. The upper floor condos, second floor condo, would be looking down on the parking lot, but we're talking about a parking lot that by ordinance will have about 90 trees in it where there are no trees now. Again, it's below grade, so you know the visual impact of what we're talking about here is there's a significant buffer here, even before the town builds its art walk with, you know, enhanced landscaping. We're building the retention wall and 90 trees in our parking lot. So I think a lot of that gets mitigated. But I do want to go on just a little bit, if I could. That parking lot is, there was a drainage question. Parking lot has underground detention. So all the water coming off of the buildings, off of the parking lot, even off of a portion of the town's current parking lots or areas, will flow through the parking lot into that detention area. That detention area on a major storm would fill up, and then over the next 36 hours would bleed off into the town's existing storm sewer and ultimately down into the town lake. Dark sky ordinance as it relates to that parking lot. The lights that we will use there, I like the lights that you use out on the Avenue of the Fountains. All downlight, heavily shielded. Same type of lighting would be used here. We're not talking about any uplighting coming off of that parking lot. Big issue, though, there is the grade difference. You know, we're essentially cutting into the side of the hill here to not only to bring the parking in and grade the parking for drainage, but also to reduce the overall heights of the buildings. The theater building gets reduced off of the back of that. We cut into 8 feet into that in order to keep the building grades down. But again, you need reasonably flat floors in buildings, and we're responding to that issue as well. So a lot of the concerns that were brought up, and I thank them for the comments. The plan that we are building or proposing to build now was the same plan that we proposed to build 2 years ago. Unfortunately, the financing fell apart at that time, and we've spent the last 2 years scrambling, trying to get it put back together. We have it put back together and are ready to move forward. The larger project will not be built, or at least it will not be built by us. The 155,000 square feet is probably going to drop down to about 127,000. That's not all in one building. Obviously, it's in 5 buildings. The largest building here is the theater building, and it's about twice the size and volume as Town Hall and roughly the same height. So those are some of the issues that are heard that would like to, just take that minute to explain what's really going on the site. The other issue, traffic study. There's been 2 previous traffic studies done on this property. The last one was done in 2009 and submitted to the town. Town marked it up. They have some concerns with it. And when we resubmitted the project, we thought we were just resubmitting the traffic study. Town engineers want more definition done in that traffic study. We've agreed to do that. We will be using all the traffic counts and everything off of the 2008 study, so hopefully we can get that done in very short order here and get it back to the town, and we can resolve any issues as it relates to off-site mitigation, which primarily from the studies that have been done before are lengthening of turn lanes, turn bays, and that sort of thing, as well as concerns about how La Montaña and the avenue and that intersection there. So we'll be trying to resolve those with the staff in the next 2 to 3 months, working with the traffic engineer before we go vertical, as the development says. We'll be out there moving dirt. Development agreement says that before we go vertical, in other words, before we start putting up walls on any of the buildings, those traffic issues have got to be resolved. So that's our target right now. That's what we're heading for. So, I'd like to talk about jobs and sales tax just a minute. We project about 320 to 350 jobs, permanent jobs, full-time equivalents. There will be some part-time jobs, obviously, in a theater. Also, this is a major sales tax generator. The economic work that we've done on it, we see this project as about a $3 to $4 million net present value boon to the city's or the town's bottom line in the way of sales tax fees. There's almost $1 million worth of direct fees for building permits and that sort of thing that will be paid to the town. So there is some economic impact to the town here. And then finally, if I could, in my comments here is, I really do want to thank the town again for working with us. You might say we're nothing if not tenacious. We've been going at this now for 5 years. We've been through numerous town managers and a few council members as well. We've got great cooperation from the entire community. We've spent the last 18 months to 24 months negotiating with members of the council and key staff members on how to put this together, how to mitigate the adjacent property issues as best we can. I think we're there. I really do. Delays to this project, we've already essentially suffered about 2 months worth of delays through the holidays. We had some issues resolving site plan issues and whatnot that really ultimately ended up delaying us over 2 months where we wanted to be at this point in time. To further delay us, I'm not going to say that we can't do it, but it definitely impacts us the longer we wait, mainly because we're cutting into the prime time for the theaters. Next fall, next winter, our prime time for opening these theaters. We'd like to get them open as soon as possible. Theater operator, Frank Hafar, is a community-based theater group. They're not a Harkins, they're not an AMC, they're not an Edwards, although Frank Hafar ran Edwards Theaters in California for 30 years. They are a community-based theater group. That means that, yes, they'll have 4 screens available for premiere movies. They don't make any money off of premiere movies. I'm not sure you know that or not. The movie houses take all the money off of premieres for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Then they move into the secondary theaters within the main theater complex, so that's another 4 screens. And then the last 4 screens that Frank is talking about building here, he does have some flexibility. We've talked, in fact, our main theater will have a stage, so the possibility of live performances at that stage. I heard art films. Those are all possibilities. Again, with being a community-based theater, he's looking to cater to whatever markets are available. So we're really trying to design a theater that speaks to the market in Fountain Hills. We're not building a 24-plex of theaters adjacent to the 101 and competing heads up with Harkins. These are community-based theaters built for Fountain Hills and its surrounding environs. With that, I've enough pontificating, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
No, thanks for addressing some of those items. Vice Mayor?
Mayor, thank you. This has been really challenging, obviously. The part of it has to do with what is our role. Like, I think some people that were speaking said, you know, you could try to figure out if something's feasible or not, and I know that everybody has differing opinions about that. It is a little difficult when you know that we had studies in the past that showed us that a movie theater would not succeed here with that many screens. They have mileage and they have ticket prices and demographics and things like that that don't seem to totally less than guarantee success, but, you know, nobody would expect that, but at least give pause. But the idea of us having the, you know, that being our role to decide, I'm not sure, but we do have a certain amount of flexibility to talk on some of these issues. One of the things that occurred to me that's different from before was when we did the plan before in 2008. It was before we did the downtown visioning plan with the SWABAC group, and that was very well vetted, as Frank was saying. And we did go. You know, that just took a long time. Ultimately, the council in December, I think, of '09, did a resolution that accepted the visioning plan. And in the visioning plan, this area we're talking about now is the south end, and that had was proposed to be, you know, have some green space, have a park, mixed use, residential. It has residential because we have the condos there. And then the theater district, which was the west end, was over by Bashas'. So when people say, well, it should be here or there, I know, well, this is private property being bought, mostly private property being bought by a private enterprise, so it's not so easy to just say, well, hey, just go to Shea. But I do have a problem with this incongruency with the area, the downtown plan, because it really spelled out what this south end should be. Now, part of what would mitigate that would be obviously green space and the park. So I hope that we're not dismissing outright what Councilman Brown and Henry and Councilman Leger were talking about, which was trying to create a green space in that area, which would ultimately be an art walk or something like that. But I have a problem that, and unless everybody else obviously here accepted the SWABAC plan, and it was, and so I would be interested to know how everybody sort of justifies that or to themselves, and help me get there. I also want to talk about the traffic study. Now, sir, you mentioned before vertical, but I was understanding it only had to be done before occupancy. So if it's before vertical, that's a little bit more palatable. So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, it's two pieces. It has to be the solution arrived at prior to them going vertical, the solution implemented prior to occupancy.
Okay, so Mayor and Andrew, the study would be done before going vertical, just so it would lay out what they had to do.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be like, oh, the building's built, this is what you have to do, can't do it, but what would we do at that point? So we actually would have some options.
The study would be agreed to and complete prior to vertical. Then implementation of those changes, whatever they were, would have to happen prior to occupancy.
And Mayor, can we get that study ourselves? Can we be the, I don't really know how that works, whether you go out for bids or whatever, but in other words, would we be able to approve the hiring of whoever did that study?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, we have a traffic study already from the developer in this one. So it's either that study gets modified or a new one is done. It's going to be on their dime one way or the other. I don't know that it matters who the client is, but as long as everybody's agreeing to what the solutions are, I don't know if it matters who hires the person. It's a developer responsibility to pay for and provide that study.
Yeah,
Councilman Browke?
I think through some of the discussions, Mr. Fackler or Bob can probably answer this, but I think there were some discussions during one of the meetings that this would be, the town will be intimately involved as far as what the traffic study is doing. Certainly, the developer is going to be paying for that cost, but the town would certainly have a seat at the table during that discussion and anything that needed to be done. Is that correct, Bob? I mean,
If I could respond to that, Mr. Mayor. You're absolutely right. Essentially, there will be a scope of work meeting, the meeting with Kimberly Horn, and we will use Kimberly Horn simply because they've done everything else before the previous two studies. But we'll sit down with the town engineer, Kimberly Horn, ourselves. We'll put together a scope of work for what Kimberly Horn is supposed to do, a timetable for getting that done. They'll go out, do the work, come back. Whatever results or recommendations that they have, again, there's going to be those kind of sit-down meetings to resolve whatever the recommendations are, who's going to do what, when, and how.
Okay, good, thanks.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, and the other thing that, if you don't mind me asking, this is actually the first time we've all been here. I haven't been in any of those meetings, and I don't think maybe a couple of us have, so forgive me for asking things like this, but did you consider a camel view type? I mean, is there a reason why you're so motivated for the 12 screen? And I think, and we all have our anecdotes, but when you go to Camel View there, the parking is hard. You cross the street, you get online around people go there specifically because it is that kind of a movie theater. And I don't, and I don't have a study about that, but I do if I go to pavilions or something, and they're not really that filled up. So that just from a person that observes, is there a reason why that was the better way to go in your project?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Member Dickey, I know Dan Harkins really well. I've worked with him when I was in Tempe for many, many years. Dan owns two theater complexes, Camel View and the Valley Art, that he knows he's going to lose money on. But they round out his offerings valley-wide. So he sees Camel View purely as arts film location. It does lose money for him. You can verify that with him himself. From a standpoint of putting together a theater complex in Fountain Hills, first off, do you do second run rather than first run? Francofar doesn't do, my theaters don't do second run theaters. Totally different mix, totally different type of operation. Frank approached it from the standpoint he is going to build a first run community-based complex, 4 screens dedicated to premiere films. 4 screens would be the backup for or moving those films over after they've done with their premiere films, so that make room for the newest ones. And the other 4, for the most part, are purely market. He wanted 14. We moved him down to 12 just from the cost of building the larger complex. He wants to be able to ensure that he does not get built out of the market by some other complex coming in. Once he's proved the market, he's doing well. He wants to make sure that if he's got 12 screens here, that somebody won't come in and build another 12. If he's got 6 screens, he shows that there's a market, he could very well get built out of the market. So that's his thinking as it relates to the number of screens that he's proposing to put in. He doesn't feel that running a first-run movie theater, that he can go less than 12. He doesn't feel he can make that work.
Mayor, thank you, and I'll let you go. But the 4 purely market that you said, I'm not familiar with very much of this, but you mentioned you might have a live theater, a stage available for live theater, which is obviously something that would help sustain the building. I think we're all worried about the idea of the building just being empty. And then since we're kind of around the library and the civic area, is it possible for those to ever be used in an educational manner, or even, we talked about dark skies, and maybe making use of any of those places for planetarium type of thing, or film strips, or anything like that?
You know, it really comes down to what works in this community as far as Franklin's concerned. You know, having those negotiations with the community. Can the theater do that for free? No. But can the theater make those kind of spaces available on a time-sensitive basis? You got to remember that the Stage Theater is our largest theater, 320 seats. That's where you'll see the blockbuster premieres and that sort of thing. But working it into a schedule, so a community play, let's say an entertainer wants to come park their bus and perform on stage, that sort of thing, those are all possibilities. Have we had those detailed discussions? No. But we are building that theater specifically with a stage. Now, that doesn't mean that it's got big green rooms and, you know, a loft fly or anything else like that. It's not a performance theater. It is a movie theater with a stage that can host those types of events.
Thank you.
Good. Other council questions, comments? I think when you first got up there, you addressed a lot of the items, and when we had our break, many of the folks from Village Town Center who did a great job presenting, I think everybody did a very good job. A few of you went over the 3 minutes, but you did a great job. But many of you mentioned to me, make sure the theater folks and people know we're not against the theater. And I said, well, it may have come across a little bit that way, but they did focus primarily on the parking area, environmental and the wall, and you know, obviously we heard very good presentations and have the documents to prove it. But many of them wanted to make sure they knew that you knew that they weren't against the theater.
And once again, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to mention that as we move forward with the redesign of Phase 1B, the reduction of the size of those buildings and whatnot, and the traffic study that goes kind of hand in hand with all that over the next 2 to 3 months, we don't want to overbuild parking either. So we will definitely take a look at the councilman's suggestion for that row of parking. You'll notice on the plan that's not the typical double row of parking. It's a single row of parking and a wide aisle. Wouldn't mind reconfiguring that, really wouldn't. We didn't have the land to put the double row in there. But let us take a look at what the final mix of this project are going to be, especially with the feedback we're getting from the community that they'd rather see a lot more food service rather than just pure retail here to make this an entertainment destination. Let us take a look at that. Let us take a look at the parking numbers, work with staff. And the parking model is somewhat fixed, but it's not totally rigid. I think there's things that we can do with that. But I also want to take a look at the traffic study. And as we move forward with that, we'll continue to work with you. We will be bringing buildings B and C back for a revised concept. That would be a good time to work with that at the time.
I think many other things are mentioned. The closeness of the cars is an issue. The vastness of the parking area. I know.
I don't think they'll see those cars.
I understand that. The mix and the values of the community and having art and a sufficient art walk, protecting the view corridor. I think parking lots do that, particularly with trees. I think you're not going to have a building where the parking lot is, so views from community centers and libraries are going to remain there. But we do value the art walk, and I think we really do want to see a bit of a wider space there. And I know that making changes up here is not something that our attorney would advise us to do. So we want to do it right. We've heard the feedback. I think it was all been very good. What Councilmember Leger mentioned is, I think, spot on. And if it's come short of us having to, if there's something short of us having to bring this back with something with all the exhibits addressed, then we can do that. But I don't know if we have that ability to do that. And we're not going to make all those changes here tonight and expect to come out with something that we'll all be real happy with. But I The other comments, and I think what Vice Mayor Dickey brought up with the number of theaters reminds us that although we've been through this several times, and this theater plan is almost exactly the same as what we've approved previously, plus the additional 7 or 8 or 9 acres to the east, a much larger project. This one resembles this portion almost identically. We forget that we sometimes want to go back to the beginning and explain some of the how we got here and why are there so many screens and why is the height the way it is, and explain that the terrain continues to drop off down towards the fountain, so the elevation may not be as impacting and the viability of a theater. So I think those are all good things to make sure we go back and touch on, because not everybody was here. I think everybody did a nice job, and you did it as well on your presentation, and Bob did, setting us up for the public hearing. But that parking area, I think, is a sensitivity that we have
Continue to study it.
get comfortable with, and I don't know if we're able to approve the concept plan without having addressed those exhibits and I mean, everything is, the development agreement envelops so much of what we're talking about, so I'm not sure we can move forward on that unless council wants to consider other options. Andrew, did I explain that kind of clearly, where if we want to change this parking area even slightly to give us a larger art walk and give a little more cushion there, perhaps address a wall, you wouldn't advise doing that tonight, or what would you advise?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you know I'm always reluctant to revise a contract from the dais, especially when we've worked this long on. This particular change, albeit on one map, would just alter one aisle and one row of parking. It's included on a lot of exhibits to this agreement and some text. So we want to make sure if we're going to do that, that you catch all those other places and that we address it. It's not a huge amount of changes, but that's all I've heard so far. I don't know that that's all there is. And I want to make sure that if there are other changes, that we make note of all those and try and figure out a way to get those back in front of you in a final form.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Councilmember Hanson.
People are passionate about the movie theater. I mean, it's an exciting idea, and it's great to discuss. I think Jeannie brought up a really good point, though, about the visioning plan. And that I recall the theater being over more like where the Chamber of Commerce is, actually, and Bash's as well. I wasn't on the council the last time this plan was approved. I mean, it was pretty well all put together prior to me taking office. If I'd been a part of that, I would have expressed concern at that time about using the town property to the south end of the project as a parking lot. When you look at the boundary that curves in by the condos, it's kind of angled. And that's when we acquired that property from, it was MCO at the time. They agreed to reroute their project, or the condo project, in order to leave us with what we called the linear mall, which was really taking the place of the longer linear mall that was originally planned to go all the way down to Saguaro. So I think that was part of the vision at that time. And when we talk about vision, and it was always looked to be an extension of what is now the Centennial Circle, and a nice green area that would be the connectivity between the community center buildings and the rest of the downtown. So to turn that into a parking lot, I always kind of had heartburn with that. The developer's really only providing 210 new spaces. All the rest is existing property out on the public streets and the community center property. And what I'm calling the linear mall has 169 spaces on it, and it would just seem like that maybe they could come up with that additional 169 from some other place. And then also the idea of approving this when there are so many potential changes, like are we going from the 3 stories to the 2 stories, and knowing that for sure? Are we adding more restaurant for sure? Or we think we're going to add more restaurant, And how would that impact the parking? Because restaurant would require more parking than retail or office. So our town engineer's report on the traffic study, it was pretty strong. He said it's a major issue. And so I'm hesitant to go ahead until we finalize that traffic plan, because as he said, the 2009 plan was never approved by staff, and there was some trepidation with the plan at that time. So I just feel like there's some balls in the air that need to be taken care of and decided upon before we actually approve something.
Thank you. That was another hand over there. Vice Mayor?
Well, Mayor, if we're going to be talking about things that we might, if we're going to bring it back, then that's what I was wondering if you wanted to do that. I just have a couple other items. Andrew, I don't understand the reciprocal parking agreement surviving the development agreement. Could you explain that to me?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, the concept of the reciprocal parking agreement, as you know, if the theater goes away and the agreement spells out a number of different scenarios whereby the theater be reestablished or other uses reestablished. If other uses are reestablished that aren't as parking intense as this, it would be modified and the area would reduce down to the extent necessary to serve that building. But in the original plan, and I think in this plan, everybody's pretty comfortable that the size of that building will not be accommodated with the parking just next door to it, regardless of what it is. There might be uses, office uses or other, that may bring the numbers in, but it's a big building. And so the idea was to ensure that anybody who's going to invest in building the building would know that it could be parked if it was in a reuse phase as well as if it was in the movie theater phase. And that's why it's a very complicated mechanism to getting there. But it was necessary in order to ensure that if the theater went away and the reciprocal parking died with it, it could kill all the reuse if there were no parking with it. So that was the means by which the reuse could be facilitated.
Okay, thank you. So it would stay in effect beyond, that's why. Now, with the traffic study, would that be anything that would affect the amount of parking needed?
I'm going to look to the engineers for that. Randy, both the engineers in the front row are shaking their heads, so I'm going to take that as a no.
Okay. The building permit section that talks about, I think it's on page 4, right at the bottom, it says that no grading permits will be issued by the town to the developer until the necessary assurances are received and approved by the town attorney and the town engineer, and the developer has either taken ownership of the property or obtained and delivered to the town written authorization from the property owners granting the authority. When would B happen? What would make that happen? That they wouldn't be the property owners? Because that's the first thing on the list, right?
That provision was anticipating that there would be on-site grading prior to the time of closing. The closing has to happen within 60 days of the agreement being executed, and that was to allow for any pre-grading work out on the site. If the necessary assurances were provided, we haven't seen anything yet on that. But that window of time was what was being looked at in order to try and not lose 60 days if that's how long it took to close.
Okay, so that, Mayor, you're comfortable with that then, being there?
I'm comfortable with the
Giving them-
language. I haven't seen any
Oh.
form of assurance yet, so I
Okay.
can't say.
And then, Mayor, in the parking agreement part on page 2, they talk about number 2, reciprocal easements. And can we, so we have a share, they have a share, can we quote unquote share our share? Otherwise, it looks like there are times that we may end up having to not have enough parking for one of our own functions. For example, like this meeting, we have a lot more people than we would have expected, and it would be nighttime and it would be movie time. So what would we do at that point? It was kind of reminded me of sometimes at the schools when we'd have plays and things would kind of go crazy and you'd put up signs. Is there anything besides what's written here do we have a right, because it says, this perpetual right, do we have a right to use our own parking?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, the agreement is, the entire reciprocal parking agreement is based upon the concept that they are used at different time periods. On those times where you have an overlap, you're just going to have a parking crunch. There's no way around that. An event at the community center coupled with a weekend night of a movie theater use will put a strain on those spaces that are closest to both those uses. And it's a reality that people coming to the community center to an event in the ballroom might find more convenient using some of the spaces off to the eastern side, and may take away movie theater parking spaces in the same way as you would have potentially community center or town hall spaces being taken by movie parkers.
Mayor, I'm sorry, again, I'm just looking through these with you for the first time with everybody here. So when it says the benefited party versus the granting party, but we're sharing everything, so how do you know who's who? And it probably has something to do with the spaces that are reserved, but I really wasn't getting my arms around which ones, who gets what again.
In the agreement, the benefited party is depending upon which piece of property you're talking about.
Okay.
The easements to the benefit of the developer are those easements over town-owned property. Easements to the benefit of the town are those easements over the developer-owned property. But it's completely reciprocal. It is the only reserved parking spaces allowed in the whole transaction are the spaces we have just to the east of the building here for our law enforcement uses. Those are outside of the model. And a small group of spaces for employees of the movie theater. And that's basically it. Everything else is first come, first serve. Everybody has full option to use every space.
Everybody, all right.
The only other time that there'll be a reservation allowed is during large downtown events. Some movie theater spaces could be reserved in a lot right next to it, so the movie theater would actually have parking during a major event, but that's it. Everything else is full-time, both directions.
Okay, one more thing, sorry. And I'm done. Number 3, temporary relocation of easements. What if we had a water leak or something that made it that we couldn't use our parking? Do we have to spend money, or if we're going to construct or do something different, like maybe with the art walk, maybe we do a little bit more than what we're doing? Would we ever see ourselves in the position of having to spend money to use public property that was public? This number 3, that I guess, as long as we're talking about looking at this over, you don't have to answer me now because I know I'm not being clear, but that would be another reason to say that we're not prepared to make amendments right now, I don't think.
I can give you a very generic answer to that. The temporary relocation of easements was a lot more important when this was a multi-phase project going east of Verde River as well, because there was going to always be a time period when construction would be happening nearby. In this case, it's less likely because the improvements that would impact around the community center will be done in the first phase.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Leger.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew, I'll just address this at you versus the developer because I think you have the answer to it. But this evening, I've heard on a couple occasions that the town is donating the property to the developer, and of course that has a lot of meanings, but just as a point of clarity, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the town is maintaining ownership of that property. That will be town property. It will be public property. As a matter of fact, all those parking spaces that will be paved will be public parking. It can be used for overflow from the community center. It can be used during the Great Fair. And the interesting part is the developer is putting that parking lot in at their expense, not the town's expense. So it's actually, the town is actually receiving something as that benefit. With respect to the view corridor, I think that if we can make the adjustments that we've recommended this evening, you will have a view corridor, you will have a buffer, it will be exciting, and it can connect to an urban garden, and it will be a nice connection between the theater, community center, and all those amenities and assets. I think that can work very well if it's done correctly. And last but not least, regarding vision and vision plans, I sat with Vern Swaback before we knew how to spell Vern Swaback. And I sat in his office, and I was very impressed by him. As a matter of fact, our chamber members punked out on us. But we brought Vern up here, and we're really lucky to have Vern. He's a world-class architect. We were lucky. The economy was sour. He had some spare time. He helped us out, did an incredible project. One thing Vern said in his office, and he said, every time we met to talk about the vision plan, it's a vision. They're all moving parts. Don't get hung up in that. And we'd say, well, where do we start? Where do we go with this? And he'd say things like, as the master, he would say things like, if you get an interested investor that's willing to make an investment and it works within the context of the total vision, take a close look at it. And we're taking a close look at it. So no disrespect in terms of visions or moving things. A vision is not set in concrete. A vision is a vision. And this evening, we're looking at a plan that, as was stated earlier, I cannot tell a private developer to do or not to do a plan. What we can do is look at the feasibility, look at the numbers, look at the model, look at the value add to the community, look that it is part of our vision plan, listen to our residents, try to come up with something that works for everybody. I think that's what we're trying to do. And with respect to parking, I think it would be a good problem in this town to have a parking problem downtown. I really do. And if we have that wall up there so you guys don't get the lights from that, that would be even a better solution. So Mary, I just wanted to ask Andrew a question. We've put some possible ideas on the table here. I know the developer and their investors, everyone's on a timeline. Is this something that we could just add stipulations to that you would feel comfortable with? Or advise me, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Andrew.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it depends upon the extent of the changes. If the extent of the changes is to remove an aisle of parking and to make all necessary changes for that, we can probably handle that as a post-approval issue. We just don't want to try and change the language at the dais tonight. It would be something that prior to the town manager being authorized to execute the agreement, those changes would have to be made. If it's a laundry list of things that need to be changed, then I'll want to make those changes and bring that agreement back for everybody to see what the text looks like prior to you having to be required to make a call on it.
Councilmember Elke.
Yeah. Paul, can I ask you to come up for 1 second? Paul, there's been some discussion about the traffic study, and Mr. Fackler made comments earlier about using, was it the 2008 numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that?
Correct.
Okay. Now, can you explain what that means as far as, logistically or the bottom line, how that would affect the town, using the 2008 numbers as opposed to using numbers today? How would the town benefit, I guess?
Mayor and Councilmember Elke, to do a brand-new traffic study, they would have to hire a consultant who would have to come out and take traffic counts, and then you'd be waiting for that. So you'd probably be adding at least a month to the process. The developer asked to use the 2008 traffic counts, which in reality will be higher than what they are today. So it would be a benefit to the town to actually use the 2008 study because it would have higher traffic counts, but it'd also be a benefit to the developer because we can get the traffic study done quicker, get the mitigations agreed to before they go vertical, if approved.
Thank you, Paul. Mayor, if I may, I've sat up here and listened tonight to all the comments, and certainly all the comments of our residents, and I appreciate so many of you coming out here and speaking to us. Please come out to the next meeting and the next one as well. It's nice to have a packed house. And in its most basic of terms here, we have a developer that's saying, we want to develop your downtown and spend millions of dollars doing it. And this is something that the town of Fountain Hills has been looking for a long, long time. And I understand some of my fellow council members' concerns with respect to the parking with respect to the view corridor and some other issues. But tonight's not the night to go through the contract line by line and talk to our council. These things should have been worked out and vetted out earlier. They should have been discussed before. The staff have been working on this and presenting council with information. This isn't the first time, I guess, that we've seen this development agreement and the concept plan. Too many times, the public perception is that government gets in the way of business, government stalls things, and in some ways, I've felt that frustration in working as a council member because it's not like my business where I can just make a decision and make things happen. And there's a process, and I understand that, and I respect that. But here, I think we need to move forward on this. We need some progress. We need some development. We need to make a decision and make a decision tonight. I hesitate to put this on the back burner. I'd hate for us to hear from the developer that, well, financing is no longer going to supply, or is no longer, the financing has fallen through, essentially, and we're not going to be able to do this. I don't want that on my shoulders, that because of a delay, because of some issues that I believe through our council and through their council that we could probably work out after the fact, that we have somehow cleared this deal. I'd be in favor of moving forward on this, and I certainly want to see some progress and some development downtown. We need it desperately, and I think this is responsible, and I agree with Councilmember Leger's comments that, or his quoting of Vern Swalback, that the vision plan is just that, it's a vision. It's not something that it's not handcuffs, it's not a straitjacket. It can be fluid, it can be moved, and this does fit within that vision plan, and I support this plan. Thank you.
Very good. Andrew, it goes back now to you. You've heard some of our items related to this parking area in particular. Staff's recommending it with stipulations. How I think most of us would like to move forward on this. It's very similar to what we've done before, and we approved that. We do want to have more life downtown. We don't want to hinder the project from potentially not getting funding. I think we'd like to move this forward. How do we do that in the smartest way without making changes tonight here that might put us in motion and go ultimately into the wrong direction? You mentioned stipulations we could add, giving authority to execute the agreement based on some stipulations tonight. How can we make that happen?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so far tonight, the only thing I've heard a lot of comment on is the southernmost edge, losing drive aisle and one row of parking and reconfiguring for that. If that's all we're talking about, that's fairly easy to handle. It's just going to require that we have some time after tonight to put the agreement into the final form before signature. An approval conditioned upon that is fine with me. But like I said, if we have a laundry list of other items, I need to know that, because I can't tell you, yes, let's go forward with this tonight, and then we come up and the motion ends up with 17 stipulations. So I just need to know the scope of it. If that's all we're talking about, piece of cake.
And let me just talk to that vision plan. And it's clear that some definitely didn't hear when that theater was drawn up, where actually the Chamber of Commerce building would have to be moved on that drawing. They had said at the time that the theater can be put in many different places, the Bashes area. This was one of them from the beginning. And showing this as residential was more of a depiction of the fact that our downtown is so large and so vast, it will never fill up with, given the population we have. It's going to have missing teeth for a long time. What we need are more residential downtown, and that's why we kind of went with the mixed-use zoning and to allow a lot of those different uses. So it's not set in stone. That was discussed many, many times, but it is a big building, so you have to take caution moving forward. We did approve it previously. Vision plan was done kind of at about the same time, but didn't conclude until after that first approval of that building. I think as far as the other items, and I think some of these items also get addressed through the building plan process. One was mentioned about one of the residents mentioned the construction activity, and happening so close to the buildings over there. I think that's something that's probably addressed more through the building plans, but with the larger setback or larger art area, which is important for many reasons, not to mention the view corridor, but also because of the strong value our community has to public art that's almost all donated by our citizens. That and the traffic plan Paul spoke to. We want to make sure we don't have cars. Another comment from the Village of Town Center: we don't have cars backed up regularly in the parking lot with emissions coming out. That would not be good. But to Councilmember Leger's comment, if we're short of parking, that'd be a very nice thing. There's obviously, as mentioned earlier, a great deal of parking across the Avenue of the Fountains. And those residents that are coming to a movie are likely going to hit a restaurant currently on the other side of the avenue, so they may choose to park over there in the first place. But what I'm most excited about is that it looks like you're going to get your funding. We've approved this before. We expected it to happen previously, and now it looks like you're even closer this time. I'm more excited about once the theater is built and people are excited, and particularly the first year or two. There are going to be a lot of people going to the theater here because it's something new always draws that. As I'm excited about what's happening after the theater. What's going to happen to the east of the theater in the 7-8 acres there, and then also in the rest of our downtown. Because similar to what Target did on Shea, there was the editorials that were written about can't get a pair of socks in Fountain Hills. There's a lot of reasons to leave Fountain Hills, and there still are a few reasons. Movie theater is one of them. But now there'll be less reasons to move out of Fountain Hills. I think Target helped that a great deal. A lot fewer people having to leave Fountain Hills. So I'm more excited. One, I'd like to see movies here, and some of those folks that have kids really hits you hard. They don't want their kids driving. They're 16 having to drive a good distance to go to movie theater, and they'd like to have more things here for the kids. But equally, the seniors and everybody in between would be excited to have theater here also. They don't like to drive that far either. But I'm really excited about what happens after this. This is really a catalyst to making more things happen. It's a quality-looking project. It's certainly big, but that's a movie theater, and that's why it's zoned. That use is allowed in that zoning district. So I'm excited for that, but I would be comfortable in what you said, Andrew. I don't hear a lot of items that need to be addressed beyond what we've already talked about. Any other comments, Council members or Vice Mayor Dickey?
Thank you, Mayor. There are only a few things that I think were mentioned that might warrant changing, which is the height of the buildings. That might be one, or might be 2 stories instead of 3. The fact that there might be more restaurants rather than offices, which I think would also affect the traffic study validity there and the buffer. So the restaurant part is attached to the buffer part because we may not be able to remove the parking spots unless if they build more restaurants, then you might not be able to remove those. So I'm not totally sure how you'd be able to put that in as a stipulation. And also just to address some of the stuff that you said, Councilman Elke Tate, I feel we got a lot of new information. We also hadn't had the P&Z meeting yet, and the minutes that we just got in this packet very recently that helped warrant some other discussion. We have a lot of emails that we got in the last week or so, and then, of course, all the folks here tonight. So I understand what you mean by going through it one by one, but I also feel like I had some new input that I needed to ask questions. This is a really, really big deal. I want a movie theater. I've lived here almost 30 years. It's very exciting. You see the glass and the pieces of what you're going to use for the facade, and you look at it and go, yeah, let's do it. I want to do that too, but I also feel cautious and responsible for Fountain Hills assets, as always. And the idea that now we're in a time crunch is a little unfair to us sitting up here. This is the first time we're doing it. We've had a couple of sessions. Other council members have been very much involved with this. Some of us haven't. So I appreciate it, and I don't know that it's enough to make me be against it, but I kind of feel rushed, and these are still issues that I feel are there. I really want the buffer, and if I don't feel like we're going to get that, then I would rather continue this and get a way to have that happen. That's, I just wanted to address those.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Contino.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that this is going to be a jump start to bigger and better things in this community, and I also think we beat this thing to death tonight. I think we need to call for the question and get it over with, one way or the other.
Thanks, Councilmember Contino. Anything else? Councilmember Hanson.
Well, if I can just throw out as well, this was expedited from the P&Z. Generally, we wait to get approved minutes from P&Z before we consider something and have a public hearing. And that's the whole idea of a public hearing, is allow the public the ability to come out and share their thoughts and maybe bring up some things that council members hadn't thought of. We did hear some additional ideas tonight. So I think I'm kind of with Ginny about feeling rushed and backed into a corner like, okay, this has to be done tonight. And I don't think there's anything wrong with deliberating and discussing it in public, because we certainly don't want people to think that we have our minds made up before we come here.
Good. Obviously, this plan, as we talked about, it's been discussed many times before. Maybe not all the council's been here. It's been approved previously, almost the exact same plan. And it's been through P&Z, and it's been vetted out for quite some time now. I think with a project this large, I don't think any of us are completely comfortable. I don't think you should be. This is a big decision. This is a big deal. It's something to be excited about, but excitement also brings worry and responsibility and all those things. You're not going to get 100% comfortable on anything of this magnitude. But Councilmember Contino, I would call a question. We don't yet have a motion. So we don't have that. So do we want to have a motion at this time? Yeah, or do we need to clarify stipulations for you further, Andrew? Obviously, the setback, the additional row of parking removed, making sure that their headlights don't go into the units, and
the stipulations from P&Z as well. I believe that the staff report included that.
Yep, they're in there.
Everything carried over.
Yep, 8 items there. Is that with those items? We talked about 2- and 3-story buildings. I think I'd prefer to see. The theater's going to largely block out the height of those buildings. I'd love to still see 3, because I see more opportunity coming to downtown. But that's really a developer item. It's their property. They've got to get the funding, and they've got to make sure it works for them. I don't want them to build something that they think isn't going to work. So I'm not really too concerned about the 2 or 3 stories. From a council perspective, I'd prefer to be 3. The other item about traffic, I think it was equally discussed that if we have a problem with traffic, which I don't think any of us can really visualize except for during the art fairs, maybe that's not such a bad thing to have a traffic issue or a parking issue. Anything else, council?
I think that the way to address the concerns that you have with respect to modifications to the concept plan for the buildings on the front end, what we're calling Phase 1B in this case, any of those things can be handled with a simple tie-in, requiring that any changes to the concept plan presented tonight come back to council, and that no modifications are allowed without council's approval. That gets you past all of those pieces. With respect to the parking modifications, we can simply have the stipulation be the development agreement and its exhibits be modified to handle the parking, removing the parking as discussed in the meeting. I think everybody's pretty comfortable with what we're talking about here, to actually put that in text with the appropriate mitigation for any kind of off-site, I was going to say disturbance, but something of that nature, mitigating any kinds of effects of headlights and other leaving the property. If the grade separation is as we think it's going to be, it's not going to be a problem, but we can address that as well.
It might be more towards the eastern part of the property. Okay, so we've got that recognized. A motion we're talking now about the concept plan, a motion to approve the concept plan as discussed with the stipulations that are in the report, and also surmised by what you just shared. Is that an adequate motion?
I think it's going to have to be, because I don't know if I can repeat it.
Okay, good. All right, so do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second. Any other discussion on the consent plan? All right, thanks. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 6-1.
Good, thank you. All right, we're not quite done yet. Item number 13, consideration resolution 2012-01, adopting the proposed development agreement relating to public improvements, retail office, restaurant, theater, uses on property located at 16725 East Verde River Drive, cases CP 1106 and DA 2011-02. Andrew, anything more we need to do on that, other than ensure those stipulations are addressed in the language of the development agreement?
I think that as long as the motion is to authorize the town manager to execute the agreement after all the modifications have been made, I think we'll be covered.
All right. Anyone would like to make that motion? Councilor Morelke.
Motion to approve Resolution 2012-01, adopting a proposed development agreement for the Avenue relating to public improvements, shared parking, and and retail, office, restaurant, theater uses on property located at 16725 East Verde River Drive.
Excellent. Is that all right, Andrew?
Conditioning, with the addition of conditioning the signature of the development agreement subject to the changes discussed in the previous motion.
Perfect. All right, first and a second, any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Mayor, 6-1.
All right, thank you very much. We're through that item. Thanks staff, thanks developer and public. I hope you feel you were heard and listened to, so thank you, everyone. We'll move on to item 14. Consideration with possible direction regarding civil penalties for town code violations. Andrew.
I'm going to make this as brief as humanly possible. Oh, everybody doesn't want to hear this.
Now, we do have a town manager consideration. You may want to stick around next item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you recall, in prior code amendments, when we've been modifying the old language, we've been trying to decriminalize certain activities that really aren't worthy of misdemeanors. What this would do is we're just looking for direction on whether or not the council wants to come back with a code amendment in the future, near future, couple of meetings, to allow for virtually anything that's in the town code later to be created as either a civil or a criminal penalty. Because right now the default is a Class 1 misdemeanor, 6 months in jail and $2,500 per offense, including spitting on the sidewalk and things like that. So this doesn't modify anything. It would only put in place the mechanism by which you could then choose later to designate it as a civil offense or a criminal offense. And so if everybody's comfortable with that, we'll bring back an ordinance that actually affects that change at a future meeting.
Thanks, Andrew. Any speaker cards on this, Bev?
No, Mayor.
I'm on this. Any questions, council? All right, so we're looking for you to work on things and bring them back for a future meeting.
The version that you have that was presented is intended to come back as an ordinance at a later meeting.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to move our town attorney to bring forth the ordinance at a future town council meeting? Good.
Second.
All in favor, any discussion on this? You're all discussed out. Yeah, it's a decision to talk about it again anyway, so. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Good, thank you very much. All right, item 15. Consideration of an employment agreement between the town of Fountain Hills and Kenneth W. Buchanan for the position of town manager. We have no staff report. We've worked on this for some time. Had a great number of applicants and 2 finalists. They were certainly well qualified and capable of doing the job. And now we're here to consider authorizing movement on a contract with Mr. Buchanan. And I want to recognize Ken is here, and he's stuck it out through this meeting without being paid. He's not our town attorney quite yet, and it's a pleasure to meet his wife, Deborah. Thank you for coming out as well and hanging with us. Most of our meetings are under 2 hours long. Did I misspeak?
Town attorney.
Did I say town attorney? I'm sorry about that. Well, there we go, Andrew. Sorry about that. Town manager. So we have our agreement before us. Any discussion on this item? And let's see here. Andrew, do we need any particular motion on this?
Just a motion to approve.
All right, do we have a motion to approve? Thank you, Tim. So who's going to, you may have the first. You were the first. And who wants the first? Dennis was up first. You're second. Vice Mayor second. Any discussion on this item? Any speaker cards? Oh, thank you. Bev, I apologize for that.
Linda Bardot and then Audra Costa-Thomas.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bordeaux. Thanks for hanging with us.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Yes.
You guys did great. Greetings, Mayor and Council, Vice Mayor Dickey. I just have a couple of questions. As some of you may or may not know, I am participating in the Fountain Hills Citizens Government classes. They're fabulous, and I'd like to give a shout out to Julie and Lori Gary, who's done the first several. They've been fabulous. In line with that, one of our first classes was about council and manager. And through drilling down a little deeper on my own, I had a couple of questions. I know that I was at the candidate off, if you call it. We had the two potential town managers sort of do a debate, and that was great. And then I noticed it had said in the paper that a selection had been made, but you're kind of keeping it under wraps. And now I see, when I looked at tonight's packet, he's already signed the packet. What I didn't see, and I could be wrong about this, and I just want clarification, was I didn't see a public vote on the town manager position. So I guess I have a concern that it could be a violation of the open meeting laws. And I wanted to know, is that proper to not have a public vote for that? Is that done in e-session, or how is that done? I just want to make sure I'm clear about it. And like I said, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert. I'm just learning. But I'm hoping that maybe Attorney McGuire or who's ever appropriate to answer that question would just clear that up for me. Thank you.
I think that's a good point. I think a couple folks have mentioned that. And open meeting laws is a item that we have to follow, and that's why we follow this process particularly. And I'm going through it, but I'll let Andrew give a little more background on that, but thanks for your question.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you know, the open meeting law has specific exemptions for things to be discussed in executive session, one of which is the discussion of any contract matters and personnel for that matter, but in this case it was actually the contract. And it allows you to give direction in e-session that through some case law we've had to jump through a couple extra hoops, but as you'll recall, on the 19th of January you had an item on your agenda that directed the town attorney to go forth and negotiate a contract as discussed in e-session. That's the only way that we can do it without having to actually have the contract terms discussed in in public session. It would make no sense for us to go out into public session, have you say, go forth and negotiate a contract, and here's your parameters, because that would defeat the whole purpose of negotiating the contract. The contract, however, though, is not valid until after you all vote on it tonight. So your 19th action was directing me to go forth and negotiate a contract consistent with your discussions. Tonight's action is the only thing that actually appoints Mr. Buchanan as the town manager.
Good explanation. I think, Bev, the timer's about to go off, by the way.
I'd be happy to not.
There was one more speaker card. She's passing. Good, thanks for the explanation, Andrew. Thanks for the question. And, all right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, I would like to call and ask if those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Welcome, Mr. Buchanan.
Wait, invite them up.
And yeah, that's exactly right.
To the public, so they know who they're going to be calling.
And also, as Ken's coming up, we got to tip our hat to Ms. Getty. She's done a tremendous job, and she still has another month to go. To Julie, thank you so much. Mr. Buchanan, welcome to Fountain Hills.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, glad to be here tonight. Happy to be back in municipal government. When you said meetings are usually 2 hours, I'm used to all-day meetings with county government. They usually last all day for that. So I'm happy to be here, ready to get to work. March 5th, I got some transition to do with where I'm at, transition for the home and selling a home, getting everything squared away to make the move here.
Well, like I said before, you're going to love the staff and
Yes.
that you're going to be leading. Ms. Getty will be right there, and it'll be a tremendous challenge and a great opportunity for you to be part of the best community in the world.
Yes.
And
agree.
of course, you saw the citizens' interaction. We're passionate about our town, and as I mentioned, you got a great staff to work with.
Yes.
And you're both going to love getting settled into Fountain Hills. I can vouch for that, although I'm a little subjective. Any other comments,
Do
council?
you have to drive home tonight?
My wife does.
Well, thanks for being a part of our meeting tonight,
Oh.
and we're so pleased to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. See you in March. All right, council, we got item 16, council discussion direction to interim town manager Getty.
Yeah.
Huh? We did vote. Thanks for checking. Yeah.
It's getting late.
Julie?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I didn't know if you wanted me to follow up with the bird issue that we had down at the fountain. I know we're waiting for Game and Fish to come and remove a whole bunch of coots. But I didn't know if you wanted me to bring that back to the council and report on it.
That'd
the
be
next
great,
meeting.
and on the break, I asked that gentleman who was new to town, he said, I heard what he didn't like, but if he has ideas to how to mitigate birds, like we mitigate geese, please share that, so. Yeah, please, anything else? How about a summary of recent activities?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
All right, excellent. Looking at item 18, adjournment, get a motion? Any public speaker cards? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.